Session starting at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, it did
What? Putting out there? I know. City Council is in session. That does it. Okay, roll call, please. I always forget that. Who's doing the prayer? You are? Go for it. Oh, yes, sir. You're the man. Go for it.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and my other colleagues. This morning I have the honor of having Pastor James E. Daniels give the invocation prayer for the morning. Pastor James E. Daniels III is the pastor of Christ the King Ministries, Inc. He is a licensed and ordained preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Pastor Daniels has been preaching since 2011. He founded two nonprofit organizations, Fresh Start Ministries of Tampa Bay, Inc. and Look Like Ministries, Inc. is a 501c3. Pastor Daniels is a husband of one wife, Miss Carlotta Daniels. He is a father of 9, blended family, grandfather of 8. Pastor Daniels was born in Tampa and raised in East Tampa. Pastor Daniels also does community events like Winter Wonderland, where he invited the community of Sulphur Springs to come out and enjoy a Christmas celebration. Pastor Daniels is working on a new program called Neighbors Helping Neighbors. It's a program where he deploys mobile showers to different locations to help homeless families to enable to shower so they can have a sense of belonging into the community. Sir, I welcome to you Pastor James E. Daniels III.
Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you, Father, for this day, Father. Father, we want to thank you for these great men and women that serve the city of Tampa, Father. Father, go with them, Father. Help them make the right decisions that affects the city of Tampa abroad. Father, we just want to say thank you for these men and women that fought for equality on the Tampa Police Department, Father. Father, we want you to just continue to give them the strength to continue to fight the good fight, Father. Father, we just want to thank everyone that's here in their respective places, Father. Bless the hands that getting ready to do your will and your work, Father. These are all the blessings we ask in your darling Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
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 It's a pleasure to be here.
Here. Okay, a couple of things before we move to approval of the agenda. Number 85, Councilman Goods, is that going to be withdrawn and pending litigation, sir?
85 and 86.
Okay.
In Memorial Park Cemetery for March 5th, 2020, sir.
Okay, may I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next, and you had a staff report you wanted to add,
Yes, sir. I have an add-on, Mr. Chairman, for later on on the new business.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and the one from the memo, may I have a motion to amend?
So moved.
We have a motion to amend by Councilman Citro, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then item number 6, I believe, is being moved to April 2nd. May I have a motion to that effect?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then let's go very briefly, and then I'm sorry, number 87, Councilman Dingfelder, is that staying on or is that being continued?
Staff has requested, with my concurrence, since I was the maker of the motion, of a 60-day extension on item 87, which is addressing disabled parking downtown.
Okay, and do we have a date?
You have April 16th or May 7th are your regular meetings.
What would you like, sir?
April 16th.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then, very briefly here, looking through the staff reports, I wanted to just go through which one of these do we require? Let's go through these very quickly. 83, do we require a staff member here? Anybody wish to have a staff member here for 83? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
No, 83 is a pretty typical annual request, so I'm good with it.
Okay, everyone's good? Okay, so none. 84, anybody need staff here for 84? Nobody? Okay. 88, we have someone appearing, correct?
And that would be my request as well.
Okay, yes, sir. So 88, yes. 89, no appearance? Is that Councilman Goods? Do you want someone here for 89?
I thought you were supposed to be here for 89.
Okay, so we'll do 89 appear. Yes. 90?
Yes.
Yes. 91? Yes. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. 92, that's mine. No. I do not need an appearance for that. 93, that's mine. Yes. 94, that is by Councilman Carlson. A live appearance, sir? Yes. Okay. 95, that is Councilman Carlson, live appearance? Yes. 96, Councilman Carlson, live appearance? Yes. And 97, that is Councilman Dingfelder, live appearance? Yes. And then 98, we don't need it. And then Councilman Goods, your new add-on live appearance, correct?
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay. May I move for approval of the agenda?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I had sent you a note on item 28.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And I don't need it pulled from the agenda, but when the maker, which is me in Public Works, I'll just address 28 when I get there.
Yes, sir, no worries.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, we have next to ceremonial activities, and we're going to move item number 4 because we have many men and women from law enforcement here today who I know want to get off and do their job in protecting us. So we're going to move number 4, or I'm sorry, yes, number 4 to number 1, and I'll leave that to our friend Councilman Goods. Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, how we doing? Morning. Great day for me, great day for me. We're gonna wait for my trusty aide who says that she feels a special way today. So she wants to read today. I got these different glasses on, but she said, I want to make sure we get everything in today. So it's a special day. Council, let me just start by saying, for me, it is an honor and a pleasure to have what I call the trailblazers of the Tampa Police Department. In the earlier days, discrimination was very, very bad. And I could remember when I first came on, Sandy Freeman gave me my first opportunity when she said she wanted to have more minority hires to the Tampa Police Department. And a lot of my friends today who have retired, I love them dearly, knew what it was like to work at the police department and to serve our citizens. And would hear the stories from the old timers, as we call them, of the real history, as you would say. I get chills standing up here by these gentlemen who paved the way for me to have an opportunity of retirement for myself, to feed myself and my family through the years, understanding the good times and the bad times within the police department and making sure I fight the good fight and to help others. And that's what these gentlemen did, because I remember I was a part of the Association of Black Law Enforcement, and we had some issues that we were able to fight through that. So I know who started those traditions to help with those barriers, because sometimes we don't know what the barriers are. Other races don't know. I had to learn that a couple of weeks ago. So when you don't know to know, you can't really help. So you have to learn to know culture. You have to learn to know people, society, to move things forward. When I look into the audience, I was stunned to see Elias Davis here, the former chief of the St. Petersburg Police Department, and the former deputy mayor over there. I can tell you, I know the work he did at the St. Police Department. When he came in as the police chief and made some major decisions that were unsettling with sometimes our union sometimes, but he made those decisions. And as you can see today, St. Pete's doing a great job over there as well. For years, minority officers at Tampa Police Department have had to beat the odds. I know what those odds are like. Many weren't allowed in the room for roll call, even to drive a police car. But the trailblazers of their time were determined to make it. And they made it. They made the way. By the time they joined the force in 71, black officers still face discrimination on a daily basis. We watched guys ride motorcycles as they were all white. Every specialized job was a white officer. That's Mr. Clarence Nathan's word. He was retired as a police lieutenant, if I'm correct. None of the black officers had specialized jobs. But in 74, Nathan, along with Rufus Lewis, Frank Gray, and James Dukes, went to Washington and filed a discrimination suit against the city of Tampa and won. The suit opened doors for Nathan and others to join on the motorcycle unit, earn promotion, and ultimately be considered as equal, which is something they deserved. You know, I can remember when, God rest his soul, Police Chief Eddie Gonzalez was here. He had a different methodology because he came from a more diverse city in Miami. And when he came here, he immediately saw that there were some barriers still here. And he came in and changed those barriers and started allowing black officers to be on K-9, officers to move around the department. That was a glorious day when he was here. We've made some strides. When I came on the police department, gentlemen, I think we had maybe less than 100 minority officers. I think those numbers are still low today. It may be just over 100, but we haven't really moved the needle. I don't know really the reasons why, but I think it's something that we've really got to explore to get minorities, Hispanic, African American, because, you know, when you don't live in communities that you were raised in, you don't really know the culture, the society, and that brings a big difference to a big agency like that, to have a diverse department so people can understand about everybody. You know, I remember when I was a guy on a squad and we get new guys in, and never forget, the guy says, Goods, why are we going to eat here? I said, because you need to know the people in this community. We don't need to go to Fowler Avenue and eat at Sonny's. We need to be eating in our community here to understand the people in the community. And to this day, I can forget, he said, man, that was the best thing you could have ever done, because I learned about the culture of the people. I lived in a place where I never really interacted with Hispanic and black people. So I didn't know the cultures or the roots. And that's very important, to know history. That's why I'm so passionate about this today, to say thank you. Thank you. Job well done, my servant. Job well done. We still have some challenges to face, but I know we'll conquer them. We'll take some time still, but we'll conquer them. But we've got a few tokens here. Sonia, you got the first Sonia. We're going to give some plaques out to you, gentlemen. I think they're well deserving. Come on, read.
Good morning. Community Trailblazers, Rufus Lewis, Frank Gray, James Dukes, and Clarence Nathan. Tampa City Council honors 4 courageous men who paved the way for equal opportunities for blacks, women, and other minority groups in the Tampa Police Department. In 1974, you took the courage and bold action of seeking justice in Washington, D.C. to fight indifference, intolerance, and discrimination, and prompted a movement to bring a voice to those who were not heard. Serving as the representatives to a necessary change, your actions help to promote diversity and inclusion in the police department and the community. You have advanced the city of Tampa by building respect and changing behaviors. thereby increasing opportunities to all who committed to serve that they undoubtedly deserved. Your commitment to justice and equality helped form a lasting bond of unity within the police department and in our community. Your passion and admirable strength have been a guiding beacon for progress in our city. Your incredible legacy has spread from generation to generation, touching the lives and careers of many. For these invaluable actions, the City of Tampa Council is proud and honored to present this commendation to such deserving heroes of our community. It is with great pleasure that we present this commendation on this 20th day of February, 2020. Thank you.
My aide, she typed it up, and as she was typing the words that I wrote, she said, I want to read this. I guess she felt something too. And she said she wanted to do that. I said, well, it's not normally protocol, but sometimes we'll just break protocol today because she felt what I felt. So I'll just let these gentlemen have a few words and address the council. Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
To City Council and to all of you present. It's been 45 years since the four of us stepped forward to try to make a change within the police department and within the city. Today, I stand as the oldest living black retired officer with Tampa PD. I'm the last one. I'm the last one to have really experienced the segregation that existed in the police department when I went on the 18th of March in 1963. But as the changes that have taken place, we don't regret the sacrifice that we made to bring things to hoping that things would come to where they are today. As a result, we've had 2 black chiefs of police. We have Chief Castor, who's been chief of police, and there are many changes. And we just are grateful to you that you've taken this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge our sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Good evening to everyone, and I also thank you for this opportunity as well. But I think Frank Gray said enough for us, and we back everything that he said, and it was our beginning when we first started that whatever one say, that's for all 4 of us. But it has been a rewarding experience. It's been a rough road, a rough ride. Some things that we were accepted in and some things that we were not accepted in that we felt that was unfair. And all we were asking in the very beginning was to be treated fair. If you treat me fair, then I'm fine. Now, if you treat me wrong, my interest is coming back probably with a little more interest than yours. And sometimes the department resented that. But thank God that he was with me. He looked out for me. And I'm able here to survive a lot of things. But I thank the council. I thank you guys who are doing a wonderful job. I see a few people up there. I remember Miranda right there. He probably don't remember about 10 years ago. But we used to work together years ago with Bobby Bowden and Alton White and all of us. He probably forgot that, but we did. But if it's possible, I find it robbery if we not recognize the former chief of police Goliath Davis and the former St. Pete police officer Louis B. Williams, and they came up to witness this occasion.
Good morning, everybody. I want to say something here. Hopefully, you will hear me. What we've done is only the beginning. I'm hoping that you, council members, the mayor, can build on the legacy that we set forth. What we would like to have, the 4 of us, collectively, is to have a permanent fixture or statue or plaque or something permanent to recognize this event that we went through. There was nothing to compare what we went through in that department. Nothing. The only other person, there are 2 people that I can remember, or I can compare the days that the problems that we had, that they have gone through it. That was Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers. I compare what it is that we went through with them. And if you could find it within your heart to put something in front of the police department along the something permanent to recognize what it is that we've done. Something.
Amen.
I appreciate Councilman Magoo's efforts. I appreciate the plaque, but the plaque is temporary. We want something permanent
Amen.
to recognize what it is that we did for not only for us, but for our generation to come behind us, the young African Americans, to recognize what it is, who it is that paved the way for them. Because we have a debt to pay. They would have a debt to pay to us. So we're asking you to recognize that and make that picture, be it a plaque out in front of the police department, something. Councilman Magoo can probably work with you on that. But I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, make it happen. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. To the Honorable Mayor Jane Castor, Chief Brian Dugan, Councilman Magoo, I pause to say thank you for the opportunity that you have presented to us. This is an auspicious occasion that you are providing to recognize what has transpired. It did not just move from the Tampa Police Department, it changed the entire city government. And I mean, because sanitation workers were not being promoted. Public works workers were not being promoted. There were no blacks in City Hall. So after this suit, the entire city government changed. And we just pause to say thank God for being with us. We called ourselves at the time and continue to do so, the Fearless Four, because of I got transferred 4 times in one day when this suit came out to the city. And so we went through, and I was the youngest of the 4 of us. So I only had 2 years on at the time, and I had a bunch of babies, and I was scared. But you know, the Lord brought us through that, and we were so grateful. But I'd be remiss if I did not recognize the gentlemen who were before us, the ones who really went through the agony. Romeo Cole Sr., Oscar Ayala, John Lane. The list is a very long list of these men, Dwight Massey and all of these guys, Bob Cleveland, all of these men who went forth before we did, and they were not allowed to ride in police cars. They would be transported in the back seat of a police car down to their beats on Central Avenue or Main Street. They could not arrest any white people during that time period. They did not make the same amount of money that their white counterparts made at that time period. And those men stuck it out for 20 years, 25 years, and did their time, and they made it possible for me. When I got there, we were just getting to the point where you could ride a zone car. And I was probably one of the first ones to be assigned to the Davis Island area and South Tampa area. And so it was just a major impact that these men set forth, because they used to have to change clothes across the street in the garage. They couldn't change their uniforms in a locker room with the rest of us, or with the other people. When roll call was being held, they had to stand out in the hallway. They wasn't allowed to sit in the roll call with the white officers. So these men endured a lot more than we ever did, but they allowed us to stand on their shoulders to move the ball forward. And we're still wanting to see younger officers understand it was not always like it is today. There was a time that we would go through some very difficult moments in the police department. But I stopped to say this too: it were not all bad times. It was not all bad times. There were not all bad people in the Tampa Police Department. I've made some lifelong friends of mine being on the Tampa Police Department. And so I just want to pause to say thank you very much for this recognition this morning. And I pray God's blessing will continue to be upon the city of Tampa.
Well, council, you've heard it best from the people who were there. You've heard it best. All I can say now that we move forward and make sure that we continue to do and have equality and equity within our city, within all our departments, which I think the mayor is building a bench to make sure that we have that in all departments. And I know this council will also adhere to that because you know what our city's about. We're about inclusion. People want to come here. They want to live here. So we need to make sure that they see all that Tampa has to offer and see that we are a diverse place, that everyone is at the table and has a seat. Gentlemen, I turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Goods, Councilman Dingfelder, then Councilman Escalco, and Councilman Carlson, Councilman Miranda.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming down here, but more importantly, thank you for all you've done for our city. Councilman Goods, thank you for bringing this to our attention, especially during Black History Month. You know, when I hear your story, and I think of the courage and the strength and the sacrifice that you made. Gentleman talked about having young children. You got to weigh that. What happens if I lose my job, and how can I feed my children? And you know, those day-to-day concerns on balance with making something right. You know, and to me, what it brings my mind to is what happened in Washington a couple of months ago, back in December, and those brave and courageous people who stood up. They were government employees, regular government employees, but when they saw something that was wrong, they stood up and said something about it. And here we are at a local level, 40-something years ago, 45 years ago, you guys had the bravery and the courage and the strength and the sacrifice to stand up and say, this is wrong, not just for yourselves, but for everybody who came later. And I think whoever spoke to it about the fact that you not only influenced the police department, but every other department, because now we see it on a day-to-day basis. We see, hopefully, fairness. I'm sure nothing's perfect, but hopefully we see fairness and equality across this city. And that's one of the things that I love about this city. This is a city of diversity. I was born here too. This is a city of diversity. We all care about one another. We're proud to be diverse, and we celebrate our diversity through you. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Maniscalco, then Councilman Carlson. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here in your presence for what you've done for our city and for so many people. And what was mentioned about a permanent marker or a plaque, anything, because I you know, you go to Ybor City and you have the story of the Spanish and the Cubans and the Italians and Sicilians. You go to West Tampa, you get the same. But for the black community, I can't take you down Central Avenue because it's gone. I can't show you black history beyond what's left of the Jackson House that hopefully we restore. So when you say, you know, you want a permanent marker, I think, and I know the administration is listening, I think they should put something in front of the police department. I walk down Franklin Street with how downtown is getting busier and busier. More people are coming here, but they need to stop and see the history and know the story and know the people, you, that paved the way and were trailblazers and did so much of what the future generations are benefiting from today. So I hope the administration, the mayor is listening, and I encourage you know, some kind of permanent plaque, memorial, right out there on Franklin Street, so people that walk by can read those names and hear the story, and they know. Because again, the black history in this community so much has been demolished, and we have to preserve every little bit of it that we can, so we can continue sharing that story with our current and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Carlson.
Thank you for coming today. I also would be in favor of some kind of memorial, so maybe we can talk about that offline. But you know, people who challenge the status quo are called the radicals and disruptors of their day, and then history looks at them differently. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Orlando, for bringing this history to us, and thank you all for being the living history and for the sacrifices you made, and most importantly, the courage you have in standing up to changes that needed to be made in our community. I hope we'll find more ways to honor you and tell your story throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to be very short and very brief, but very understanding. You four and the others that were named earlier are the individuals that paved the road for others to walk on. And when you look at history, you four represent what Jackie Robinson did to baseball. He was the first one. And although there was others mentioned, you four are the ones that were living the life that no one else understood. And we want to thank you for it very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, along with your nightsticks, along with your weapons, you also carried a hammer. And that hammer broke down the barriers. And we thank you for that. But on your ride home, gentlemen, also remember you wielded that hammer to help build this city. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for everything you did.
Thank you, sir. And in closing, I wanted to thank Councilman Goods for bringing this forward. I really do thank you for your thoughtfulness in bringing this forward. You know, history is very important here in our city, and what Councilman Maniscalco said is right, which is in the city of Tampa, we don't know all of us our Black history. We don't honor it. Take a look at all the markers that we have here throughout Hillsborough County. I'd wager to say 97% of them don't have a darn thing to do with Black history directly on as a point. One of y'all mentioned a gentleman who's a real hero of mine, Medgar Evers. 2 months after you joined the force, he was murdered. And something that a lot of folks don't know is that before Medgar, like I always joke, before Medgar fought the Nazis here in the United States, he fought the Nazis in Normandy. He served in the United States Army. You talk about a trailblazer, people like Medgar Evers, people like Senator Edward Brooke from Massachusetts, who also served in the Korean War, people like Harry Belafonte, who before he fought for civil rights, fought in World War II. And I think that people like that, they had what's called aspirational patriotism, which is what they were serving in was segregated. The homes they would come back home to were Jim Crow, right, for Medgar. But they believed in their country to meet true to its ideals. And I think that y'all, by serving in the City of Tampa Police Department, y'all didn't just look at a police department for what it was. Y'all looked at a police department for what it could be, for what it is today. All these men and women lined up here who protect and serve everybody, no matter who they are, no matter what their skin color is, no matter what God they worship. Y'all have the community's back. And back then, the community didn't have y'all's back, but y'all believed in the community, and we're here today. So just God bless you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I know we don't like to belabor council, but this is an important day for the city and myself. I'd like the gentleman to take a photo with the council on the city.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We'll go up to the guys.
Should we come down there
Probably
to help out?
Yeah, let's go down.
Yeah. Well.
Which way we turn, Mr. Charlie, hold up progress.
We need everyone to squeeze in a little bit more, please.
Got everybody?
Thank you.
Okay, don't move, don't move. All right. 1, 2, 3. That's your hand. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, you're good.
One more. Ready? Charlie, let's do good tonight. 1, 2. All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Chief and Yellow for coming over. We really appreciate you.
Okay, and Next, we are going to move for item number 3 next. Councilman Miranda for the presentation of the Yankees.
Thank you, sir.
He wants to do Ricky Henderson. Okay. And if folks leaving the chambers don't mind to not say anything while you're on this floor so that we can run our council meetings, we appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Dan Smith. And then Julie Kramer. Gross, Grosswirth. That one's easy. I think you know me.
Yeah, but I'll forget. Believe me. Honorable Chairman, honorable members of Tampa City Council, it's my honor today to be making a presentation on behalf of the City of Tampa and the Tampa City Council to the New York Yankees. I could have written one, or Mary could have written one that would have taken 5 of these placards to fill, but we had to condense it because of time and the way I speak sometimes I'm misunderstood. However, the Yankees have been in Tampa for 25 years as a practice organization. Let me read what we have here. The celebration of 25 seasons in Tampa, the City of Tampa gratefully recognizes the economic impact of the association with the city and our citizens. Spring training alone over the past 25 years represented an impact of over $2 billion, involving more than 3.8 million fans walking through the gates of the Boss's George Steinbrenner Field. The Yankees employ more than 500 residents, and the majority of them live in Hillsborough County. The salaries for that is over $45 million yearly. Further, the George M. Steinbrenner Field is the largest spring training facility in Florida, accommodations of fans of over 10,000. If all of the above is not enough, the city acknowledges that the fact that the New York Yankees have a great partnership in our community for decades, raising millions of dollars for many local nonprofit and community partners. And there's where the list goes on forever. We are proud to share the New York Yankees have played, guess how many seasons they've been playing baseball, or years? 117 seasons, or 17 years, from 1903 to 2019. Can you take a guess how many games they've won? 9,644. They've made 55 playoff appearances, won 40 pennants, and 27 World Series. No wonder the City Council wishes to extend our deepest gratitude to the New York Yankees and more sincerely wishes for many years of success, partnership with our city and residents. And today, and believe me, this is just a token. If Mary was to bring out the full things of the gratitude that they've done, the monies that they've raised for the Boys and Girls Club, and many, many others, Metropolitan Ministries and many others, the list would be from here to St. Petersburg. But I want to thank Vern Smith, Tony Bruno, Howard Goldthworth, and Julie Kramer for being here today with the Yankees. And, you know, George Steinbrenner was a special individual. He wanted his players to be pushed to the limits. And one day back here, many years ago, when they won a world championship, I told George this: George, there's one thing you'll never do. And he said, what's that? And I said, that's fire me. And he said, no, Charlie, there's another thing I wouldn't do. And I asked, what's that? He said, hire you. This is a true story. And to that effect, I said, I had a Yankee hat on. I said, would you sign it? and he went to get the hat, and sign it inside the beak so nobody knows that I know you. And he liked challenges like that. When he was part owner of the racetrack, every time I walk around the grounds, I look around and I say, if George was still here, that paper wouldn't be there. He was immaculate for cleanliness. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Tampa Bay Downs. It's just that I see a cigarette butt or something on the way out, and I say, if George was here, that wouldn't be there. That was the type of individual he was. And I used to challenge him with a lot of things. And one day I said, GMS. I thought it was a vitamin. George, I used to say, I said, George Miranda Steinbrenner? And he would tell me, Miranda doesn't stand there. But he was a great guy to deal with. He was a person to person. I can tell you one other history that a lot of people don't know. One day I'm walking after the race is down, and he's walking in the opposite direction. He grabs me. Who is that young man ahead of you? I said, I don't know. I can only see his back. He said, well, find out who he is. And I said, can I ask you why? He said, yes. No one should go through life with teeth like that. That man, not knowing the person, paid for all of his repair, all of the dental work, and so he could have braces and look much better than he did. He was a giving individual, and he was a friend of many people. Everybody he touched, he became friends with. He had a voice of demeanor, and you know that TV show that I see once in a while in reruns, that was him. But he didn't mean it that way. He wanted to bring you up, and he wanted to talk so that you can also answer him. And to the Yankees, no team has ever done what the Yankees have done. None. And I'm not anti any other team, but it is what the Yankees are, represent the standard. If you want to play for them, you have to have a certain critique. If not, go play for somebody else. And I admire that. They own the club, they run the club, but they treat the players fairly. And I appreciate that. On behalf of Tampa City Council, all of you are going to receive this right here. And if you want to, we're going to ask you to say a couple of words.
Thank you. Hold it. Good morning, Chair Vieira, Councilman Miranda, thank you, all of the other members of the council. This is a true honor for us to stand here on behalf of my colleagues, Julie, Vance, and Howard, the Yankee organization, and the Steinbrenner family. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the commendation that was done before. Really powerful. It's a privilege to be on the same agenda with the fearsome four. Is that correct, Councilman Goods? And I think what makes it so significant is we're such proud members, the family, the Steinbrenner family, Mr. Steinbrenner in particular, and the legacy that he's created for his family and that they continue to uphold in this community. They love this community. He loved this community. And one of the stalwarts of our existence and one of the stalwarts of what was important to him was law enforcement. And he created the Gold Shield Foundation many years ago to provide for families of fallen officers, provide scholarships and education, and that was for all officers. And he was a very inclusive man, and so law enforcement is one of the big calling cards of our support in this community. So it really was humbling to be on the same agenda with the gentlemen that were on, and I thank you, Councilman Goods, for bringing that. And I think there's no irony in the fact that we're being recognized together because of our long history of support of law enforcement. But beyond that, 25 years in this community, we're very proud to bring our world-recognized brand to Tampa. We're proud of Tampa. We love to be part of of its growth, and we hope that we're part of its growth as companies come to this market and see our brand and see the world-recognized brand. We want to play a role. We believe we play a role. This is an exciting time of year where people travel from all over the country to come see our games, and we're very committed and have been committed to this community, and we look forward to doing it for many years to come. So on behalf of my colleagues, behalf of the Yankee organization and the Steinbrenner family, we thank you for this commendation, and we're nothing but humbled. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman.
If I may, I like. Let me see that ring. Let me see this ring here. Now look at this one.
You didn't think I had one, right?
Man, I should have brought mine, Charlie.
But anyway, thank you very much for appearing here. I've known Anthony, Tony, Bruno for a long time, and he knew me when I had curls.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Councilman Maniscalco, then Councilman Goods, and Councilman Citro.
Well, congratulations. 25 years in this community and all that you've done that we've talked about. I have the pleasure and the honor of representing District 6 on the City Council, which is where your team comes down for spring training and has their games. I could walk to the stadium. I'm not afraid to say it. I know baseball is a hot topic here, but the Yankees are my favorite baseball team. And Joe DiMaggio is my favorite ball player of all time. And if I talk baseball, which I really don't get into sports, I can talk about the Yankees going back almost 100 years because they're such a special team. When I tell people, I represent this district in the city of Tampa and the New York Yankees come and play down here, they don't believe it. I remember when I was about 13 years old, Mr. Steinbrenner came to speak at my school, and it was such a big deal to see this gentleman come and, a group of 13-year-old kids, this man owns the Yankees, the New York Yankees. Fast forward, the kindness of George Steinbrenner and his generosity and so many people that he helped. A family friend named Tony Italiano took me for the first time to a restaurant called Malio's, the real Malio's on Dale Mabry. And I had the luck of listening to Mr. Steinbrenner yelling at somebody. I mean, it was unbelievable. He was in his little private room, somebody, I don't know. And I said, how can this kind man be so tough? But he had that reputation where, when he had to be tough, he was tough, but he was very gentle and very kind. And, I was never a healthy eater, so many times I would go to the IHOP on Dale Mabry and Henderson. And who would be sitting there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon as I'm eating my pancakes? In the same booth, George Steinbrenner. And he would get the same thing, like the sirloin steak and scrambled eggs, something like that. And I would tell people, I see George Steinbrenner eating at IHOP in the afternoons. And they're telling me, what is this billionaire doing, at an IHOP? And I go, that's how he was. And he drove the same car. It was a blue BMW 7 Series that for the whole time I knew him, with all his money, with everything, he had the same car, dressed regular, just a regular down-to-earth guy. And he passed away 10 years ago this year, and it was on my birthday. And my father called me to wish me a happy birthday, and he said, George Steinbrenner died. And I said, how can a guy like George Steinbrenner die? Larger-than-life character. I mean, you walked, he looked important. No matter who he was, he had a towering presence, and people respected him, and people recognized him. But everything that the Yankees have done, the Steinbrenner family have done, with the Boys and Girls Club, with law enforcement, the list goes on and on. We could never repay any of you, the organization. You have the reputation that you have not because you win, but because of the heart and the soul and the compassion that is the driving force behind the Yankees organization. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
Councilman Goods, Councilman Citro, then Councilman Dingfelder.
Mr. Miranda said something that really piqued my gray eyebrows here. A person who's coached for a long time, high school youth. He talked about the aura of the team, the organization. See, to be a champion, you have to have rules. So you recognized the standard. Yankees have always had a standard. Where you look, where the pinstripes are. I remember I was first started out coaching, people say, well, Coach, why do you make your coaches wear long khaki pants in the summer heat? And I used to say, because when they come on the field with their shirts tucked in and their khaki pants, they immediately get respect and attention. And that makes the ball club dress and perform. It's all about a performance. I look at the generosity of the heart. I always say when generosity comes from the heart, not just because you have the money, because you can have the money and still not give. Generosity comes from the heart. And when I look at the gifts that the Steinbrenner organization has given to the Little League programs in my community, when I look at every year you have the high school coaches event, I used to always say, man, I'm going to get that car this year. Get that car this year. But I'm not coaching high school anymore. But those are the things that people enjoy, to have those little trinkets at those type of events, and you can be able to take care of the high school's insurance for them. I remember that vividly, years and years that happened. So I just want to say thank you for the organization.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Citro, then Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep this very brief. We have to think about George Steinbrenner going back to shipbuilding and the things that he's done for the city. But I want to thank the organization for bringing hundreds of thousands of people to our city. Thank you for hiring thousands of people. Thank you for adding to our economy. And thank you for bringing baseball here even before we had the Rays. Thank you for everything that your organization has done for this city.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, Guido, I've got my own Mr. Steinbrenner story. You guys have that fantastic boys and girls club event every year. I'm sure you're still doing it. And many years ago, it was the first time I served on city council. It was back in 04, 05. I was attending, and I've always been a big Yankees fan, having went to high school out just outside of New York City. I got to meet Mickey Mantle way back when. But anyway, yeah. But so anyway, one of my friends said, have you ever met Mr. Steinbrenner? And I said, I don't know. It's like, I'd love to, you know. So he walked me over and he said, Mr. Steinbrenner, he said, I want you to meet Councilman Dingfelder. And Mr. Steinbrenner turned around in his chair and he said, I'll do my bad imitation, but he said, yes. He said, I know you. He said, you're my city councilman. I watch you on TV and you're doing a great job. At least that's what I remember. But anyway, and at that moment, I felt like I was 6 years old, and and the teacher was just telling me, Johnny, you're doing good. So that memory will always be with me, and thank you for all you do.
And I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Just with the Yankees, always say they're America's team. You take a look at some of the famous Yankees in history. People like Yogi Berra, people like Mickey Mantle, people like Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Don Mattingly, first baseman. To me, there was a team captain, and no juice for that guy whatsoever. That was 110% human ability. I remember as a kid, I first started liking the Yankees a lot because my grandfather showed me the movie The Pride of the Yankees. You all remember that with Gary Cooper and Teresa Wright? Great movie, great movie. But just thank you guys for all that you do. And Councilman Miranda, thank you for doing this. Just hearing Councilman Miranda, we recognize what a pleasure it is to serve with this man. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to number 1 to go through our Citizens Review Board. Shirley. I usually limit them, but today.
Good morning, Council. Shirley Fox Snow, City Clerk. We are here for the Citizen Review Board. We have 4 incumbents and 1 other individual that is here to be installed at for the Citizen Review Board. Stephen Blair, if he's here, he can speak first. Devon James Ngandela. Irene Guy. And Rashid Akil.
Greetings, Council. Good morning.
I stand here before you today for your support to continue to serve the community of Tampa by serving as a member of the Citizen Review Board. It was an honor to be a part of the first serving board, answered with the responsibility as also serving as chair. During my 4-year tenure, we launched a citywide survey to address community issues as well as TPD-related cases and concerns. When the nation was reflected injustice in the eyes of the minority, we responded with community forums for all to attend. We had the opportunity to speak with members. They had the opportunity to speak with members, including TPD, including the chief. I believe tactics like such help bring community and law enforcement to common ground. Common ground allow all to join one team and to help bring community together for the greater good. It is my belief that our success drew attention of others as we were invited to speak at the gala addressing Citizen Review Board members across the United States. When I joined the Citizen Review Board, I wanted to assist support a fast-growing Tampa, a model city of growth, peace, and prosperity. With growth comes new issues and concerns. But with the foundation established, it's now time to construct. Being a Tampa native and knowing the history, knowing the people, gives me the advantage of connection. Serving as that voice for the voiceless. Being that bridge for all to share. I leave you with the words from my father, Hakeem the Dream. He always mentioned, if you're not part of the solution, then you're supporting the problem. Always stay involved. Thank you for your time. Good day.
We have another individual, Patricia Megan Maroney. She's not here. I believe you have ballots.
And
if you can
if I may inquire, who are, just so that I know, I believe I know, but who are the incumbents?
The first four, Stephen Blair, Devon Ingandela, Irene Guy, and Rashid Akil.
Thank you.
And we have 4 votes?
Yes.
Yes.
4 positions.
Ms. Fox knows, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this could be, I guess I wonder about attendance. The 5 that only have, they had good attendance, any, I didn't get any report on that, so I was wondering.
We don't have a problem. There's a problem with attendance.
By the way, today is 02202020. I always think that's kind of neat. That's it. It's almost a palindrome.
I will next hand the gavel off to our. I am here to present a commendation for the City of Tampa Women's History Committee. I'd like to invite Ms. Jennifer Dietz to come up. And before, we have 2 extremely special guests who we have invited here, former Councilwoman Linda Salcena and Mary Alvarez. Y'all want to come on up? Go ahead. You can introduce your committee,
Okay.
and then I'll hand off to y'all. So go ahead.
Great.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Good morning. On behalf of myself and Allison Smith, who is the Women's History Committee co-chair, I would like to thank you for this commendation. We have our committee here that I'd like to have join us up front today. We have a very dedicated group of women who have been working on planning the celebration, and our annual event will be on Tuesday, March 3rd at the Tampa Bay History Center at 10:30. And this year we will be honoring Jean Duncan with the Josephine Howard Stafford Memorial Award. And our keynote speaker will be a political trailblazer, Pat Frank, who is Hillsborough County's Clerk of Court and Comptroller. So we're very excited about that. Our theme this year is Valiant Women of the Vote, to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of women's suffrage. And I am so pleased to see the former council women here today. That is fantastic. We're nice and Yes, thank you. I would like to mention that traditionally our committee has reached out to a councilwoman for the commendation, and this was the first year that we were not able to do that. So to see you here today is fantastic, and we are really happy to have you join us. So the last thing I just wanted to mention before I turn it over to you is to tell everyone that we are currently sponsoring, we're partnering with Dress for Success around Tampa. So you will see the donation bins in City Hall here and at various city locations. And that is for women who are reentering the workforce. We're just asking that people donate professional outfits throughout the rest of this month and also March. So thank you very much, and I'd love to hear from you. So.
And we yield the floor to our two very distinguished former colleagues. Go ahead.
Thank you. You go. Okay. First of all, it took forever to get the vote, but it's been 100 years since we've had it. And I'm wearing white today in honor of suffrage. Did you know that 70% of women vote in elections? But that means 30% don't. So to everybody who is here watching, your children, your grandmothers, whatever, everybody needs to get out and vote. And I just wanted to speak for a second that there are many council members who were not able to join us today who were previous members of Tampa City Council. These women include Jan Platt, Haven Poe, Catherine Barja, Sandy Freeman, Gwen Miller, Mary Mulhern, Lisa Monteleone, and Yoli Capine. So from all of the former women council members, I want to thank you all for recognizing us today. I want to thank this committee for doing such great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here today. It was quite an honor to get a call from Brannon from Chairman Vieira's office, and frankly, I was quite surprised, but I was glad to accept and to be here. And I'm sorry that the rest of my colleagues aren't here, but the women's suffrage is 100 years old. I'm almost there, but not quite. And so I had the honor of representing my district, which was District 6. And I can see John Dinkfelder was here, Charlie's still here.
I'm embalmed.
They're going to do a plaque and a statue for him. But I'm so glad to be here and to tell you that the city of Tampa is where I was born and raised in, and I'm very, very proud of what's happening. I'm very proud of this council. I'm sorry that we don't have any women on the council this year, but then maybe that'll change in the coming years. And of course, go out and vote, people, because it's very important that we have a voice in this race this year. Thank you so much for the committee and for everything that you all have done for us, for the women, and go forward.
Thank you.
And if you guys want to present the commendation, you may.
Oh, we could.
Of course, that as soon as we can see it.
Do I have to read it?
No, I mean, if you wish.
I can't read it. Yeah, you read it.
Okay. This is a Tampa City Council commendation presented to the City of Tampa's 24th Annual Women's History Month celebration. We're proud of you all. We thank you for I can't see that far without my glasses either. It is my pleasure to present it to you.
Thank you.
Can we get to do this one?
I think this is for someone else. This one here is for someone else.
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, that's a different one. So it is this one. Thank you. And we hope to see you at our event. We would love to have you.
We will be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilman Seacher, then Councilman Dingfelder.
Ladies, congratulations. Thank you for your hard work on what you do. Thank you for making our city great. And congratulations on this commendation. Where is Miss Alvarez and Miss Alcinas?
They took a seat.
No, ladies, please. Ladies, if you do not mind, I had the honor of learning this craft from so many women that came before me. Miss Alcenas, Miss Capine, so on and so forth, Miss Monteleone. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know who's responsible for getting me here, is that woman right there, Miss Mary Alvarez. In 1999, I went to her and I said, I want to be mayor. And she said, well, Joe, learn the trade. Get on boards, get on committees, get on commissions, know what you're talking about. And I then became part of Civil Service Board, then Code Enforcement Board. And one of the last things she said to me in that statement was, I'll help you, but make me proud. And I hope I have made you proud, Mary.
You certainly have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Dingfeld.
First off, Jennifer, thanks to you and your committee for doing a great job with the Women's Award, and congratulations to Gene Duncan, and we'll all try our best to be there. 24 years is fantastic. I'm sure next year is going to be really big, 25 years. I do want to give a shout out to my former colleagues, Linda and Mary. People ask me, they say, John, what's it like going back to city council? And I look across this group and I say, it's way too much testosterone. And in all seriousness, Mary and Linda, I miss you both. I had the great privilege of serving with both of you, and a woman's voice is so important. And I call on both of you regularly and ask you how we're doing and what we need to do better. And please continue to give us your wisdom, because you two have so much history with this city, both being natives of our fair city. And Mary, I know your mom made it to 100, and we're counting on you to do the same.
Well, I'm almost there.
But with all seriousness, I missed you both dearly, and thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, John.
Councilmember Goode.
Well, in every organization I've been in, they've been women that ran everything, give the advice, the constructive criticism. I know that because I've ran several organizations in the community, and they've all been led by women or been the second in charge of handling things, and still they're like the first. Just like this morning, you saw my aide, Sonia. She had to critique what I wrote, and she said, well, I want to talk about it today. And so that's what women of our time have done. They've been trailblazers throughout history. They've always been the backbone for men and for the country. I just continue to bless you all on what you do. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the pleasure of getting elected the first time with two of the most brilliant people I've had the honor of working with. And in 1974, that was Jan Platt and Sandy Friedman. And they've all succeeded in doing what they did, and they loved what they did. And of all the lists of women who served, I believe there was one that I never had the pleasure of serving with. That was Haven Pope. That was Eddie Caballero's job. But the rest of them I enjoyed. We differed in different opinions. But when you win or lose, you never win or lose. You do what you think is right. And 99% of the time, you'll be correct if you vote what you think is right for everybody. You don't leave here saying you won something or lost something, because it doesn't work that way. You do how you feel, and difference of opinion is a difference of opinion. And I've had many differences of opinion, including with myself. And inside of everybody who's ever got elected, you cannot say that you left here saying, I did it the right way and I'm sure 100%. You always have a doubt, because everything can go awry. And I want to thank all of you who had the courage to seek office and had the pleasure of serving, because when you serve, you don't manage anything. You are in the hands of those that elected you, and you listen to them, and you make the decisions that you think is best for the whole city. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson.
My colleague, Mr. Seacher, talked about mentors, and I just have to say real fast, Linda Salcena has been one of my great friends and mentors for much longer than I can remember. Also, Mary Mulhern, Yoli Capine, and others, but the three of them were integrally a part of my campaign and helped me every step of the way. And so I can never thank them enough. But they've also taught me about government and how to ask tough questions and other great things. So thank you to all the female leaders who have been here before. Also, we don't have any women on the board, but I should say this board has been very pro-female rights. And thanks to Ms. Salsena, and also Athena, we passed, I think, one of the first resolutions in the state to ask the state legislature to support the Equal Rights Amendment, and that passed unanimously. And a week or so ago, we passed a resolution congratulating League of Women Voters on their 100th anniversary. And so, please hold us accountable, all of you. If you find things that we need to be doing or we should be doing, we want to make sure we stand up for everybody's rights, and especially women's rights. And to the committee, thank you for what you're doing. And even though we don't have a woman on the board, maybe the 7 of us can make up for the one woman who used to be here. So please let us know what we can do. Thank you.
You're a very good city council. Thank you for this. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And real quick, Council Member Salsena, you've always inspired me. Growing up as a teenager, I would always watch you, read about you, and Councilwoman Alvarez, you've watched me grow up. You and your husband have known me since I was a kid. You know my whole family. If it wasn't for you and council members Mulhern and Capeen and all these other amazing women that have come into my life, I wouldn't be here today. I know I would not have be sitting here today. You know, because everybody did their part, and I barely won in 2015, so every vote counts, and you were all there. You've always been there, and I appreciate it. And thank you for inspiring not just myself, but so many others. And all the work that you've done. So we appreciate you very, very much. And all the women that work in city government, that do so much day in and day out, we can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
It's like early Mother's Day or something.
Thank you.
All right.
Shirley Fox Knows, City Clerk. Council, the individuals selected for the Citizen Review Board are all of the incumbents. Stephen Blair, Devon James Ngandela, Irene Guy, and Rashid Ali Akil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to those that, you need a motion to approve that?
Well, yeah, actually, yeah, motion to approve that then.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. All right.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll be providing council with a resolution before the end of today's meeting.
Thank you very much, sir. All right. Next up, we have item number 5, Councilman Miranda to present the commendation of Ms. Kathy Beck.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, honorable council members of the city of Tampa, you know, sometimes you come up here and you say, what am I going to say? And a lot of people, Kathy's back. No, Kathy Beck. Kathy is not back. She is Beck. And that means a lot. You know, Kathy's first day on the job was on Earth Day in 1974.
Yes, it was.
And I just mentioned 2 of the shining stars that were passed. One became mayor of the city of council, Tampa City Council, one Mayor Sandy Friedman. I was honored to get elected with Jan Plant and Sandy Friedman, and they taught me a lot. And Kathy, you've been serving in different areas of the city. You were first a site plan coordinator, permit tech and development and permitting as chief forester examiner and parks superintendent with the Parks Department. Currently, you serve as a natural resource coordinator and upland habitat coordinator for the Planning and Urban Design Division.
Yes, I do.
And that's bigger than serving on city council, let me tell you that. You have done so many things, and here again, just like I did with the ones of the Yankees, if I was to put everything of this combination, I need 3 of these plastic, and we didn't have the money to put all 3 of them, so we only did 1. But she has served in many other areas. She has worked with how many mayors?
8.
8.
8 mayors.
You don't want to go to 9th?
No.
I'm just asking, you don't have to get mad at me. I'm just joking with you. Due to her efforts, the city of Tampa has been named the Tree City in the U.S. for 36 consecutive years by the Arbor Day Foundation. That's an amazing statistic. Kathy's passion and commitment for dedication in improving the quality of life of the city of Tampa itself is unmatched, and over the years she has created and maintained public partnerships, advice, and education for community on the environment, on economic benefits, and urban forestry. You know, E.F. Hutton, what did E.F. Hutton say? Let Kathy do it.
Oh, is that what he said?
Well, I thought that's what he said.
No, I didn't know.
And it's without saying that every time I've called or Mary has called to your office, I always advise her, Mary, if I was you, I'll call Kathy Beck. Because I'm sure we will get a response and get something done. And just minor little things that others would maybe forget about, you don't. I remember one day driving home on Lake Avenue, and I saw a limb that was so corroded that I know it's going to fall just with a little breeze coming by. And I called you, and I had called others before, and when I called you, within 24 hours, that was taken care of, possibly saving the city another lawsuit. That city had been notified. But Kathy has been a board member to the Florida Urban Forestry Council 2018 Executive Committee. She has also been actively involved in the Mayor's Beautification Program. Personally, she has planted many trees to restore the urban canopy. And here are just a few of the things she has done. In 2013, ISA Florida Chapter, the Lauren Weissenberger Award, the Planning Commission Executive Director's Award for protecting the city's urban canopy of the trees, the Planning Community Award, the Tree Minimus, and the Urban Ecological Analysis and Management Plan Award, promoting the tree rights in the right place. She's never planted a tree in the wrong place.
No.
And Kathy has been, not only that, but with U.S. Campus Advisory Tree Committee, the Temple Park University Square Vision Plan, the Image Hillsborough 2040 Vision Plan, the Natural Disaster Preparation and Restoration Plan. She has dedicated her whole life to helping the city be a better city. And when you talk about trees, somehow there's a word of Kathy Beck in every bark of a tree. I had to make that one.
That was pretty good.
Well, you plant trees, I make things up.
Okay.
No, but we both have the same thing to get things done. It's with a sad heart that I present this commendation, not because you don't deserve it, but because you're leaving. And it's going to be some long time in the future when somebody can fit into your shoes. And I mean that sincerely. You've done a yeoman's job for the city of Tampa, and you've done it in a professional manner that it'd be very hard for someone else to follow. And we want to say thank you very much for this award.
Thank you.
Combination to you and saying thank you for your years of service to the city. And I believe one other wants to make a little presentation.
Oh,
Mr. Michelini asked me about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Hey.
Steve Michelini. I'm here on behalf of a variety of people who'd like to acknowledge Kathy's contribution to the city and all of it stands for. And first, we're going to provide her with a gift certificate so she can enjoy herself at the Yummy House China Bistro. She has to invite somebody else to go with her, but I'm not telling her who.
Okay, thanks.
Kathy Beck has been an exceptional City of Tampa employee for more years than most people can remember. She's been a driving force in assisting citizens and city employees alike. Her selfless efforts have enabled hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals through the various city tree and landscaping processes. Her vigilance, fair-minded assistance has enabled her to not just guide the city, but to develop new programs, procedures, and guidelines to assist in maintaining the city's vibrant and healthy tree canopy. She's worked long hours, year in and year out, throughout her entire tenure of the city. Kathy is well respected among her peers and citizens alike. Her dedication is beyond compare, and her personal commitment rises to the highest level possible. Kathy has always been known as a leader and a skillful mentor always willing to help and guide newer and trained city employees as well as citizens, and as a supervisor and as a friend. She will be missed for all that she has done for the city and all of its citizens. Kathy Beck has left her positive mark upon the city that will live long after her. She truly epitomizes a dedicated, selfless employee that makes the city a great place to live, work, and play. Whenever you enjoy the shade of a tree, or a tree-lined street, or a well-shaded and well-landscaped property, thank Kathy and her diligent efforts. More than anything else, that will be Kathy's legacy. Kathy has been a friend and a fixture in the city, and she casts a long shadow that will leave a large hole to be filled by her successor. There are far too many stories and experiences to be told and retold regarding Kathy. Some of them you simply wouldn't believe. Kathy, and suffice it to say that her word is her bond, and her honesty is beyond reproach. Enjoy your well-deserved retirement. However, many of us reserve the right to assist in having you return to City Hall whenever you're needed. And I can say that will be often. You should, just in case you get bored. More than anything else, I could say, I'm proud to call Kathy my friend and the friend of so many others. Thank you for your service.
This has been quite a morning, and so I'll try to keep this brief, but I want to let you know it has been my honor to serve the citizens and leadership of this great community. But this past 45 years has really all been about Tampa's urban forest, and I'm proud to say that I think I'll be leaving with good shape with your urban forest management plan, your urban ecological analysis, and the leadership of this great city. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Councilman Hughes and Councilman Dingfelder. Councilman Carlson, Citro.
All I can say is wow. When I look at 46 years and I see Mr. Miranda over there, started in 1974 as well, I believe, sir, right? That's a long time to serve the city.
Yes, sir.
It's a long time to be working. What I can say to you is congratulations on joining the club. And you go and you enjoy yourself. Because 46 years is a long time to be working. So you go enjoy yourself. And we'll need you, we'll call you. You go enjoy yourself. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Kathy. We are going to miss you greatly. I've had the pleasure of working with you for a long time, and whoever said it was absolutely right. If there was a tree issue, that you were the go-to person, and not only did you care about trees, but you cared about those citizens. And I've talked to quite a few developers over the last couple of weeks, and I said that, what a shame it is that you're not going to be here anymore. And they all agreed because they said that you were fair, and that's all anybody could ask for. And to get Steve McElhaney a little choked up is quite an accomplishment there. But we, just like Steve, the rest of us will miss you greatly, and please don't be a stranger. And the trees thank you, and we thank you, and we'll keep working hard to protect our urban forest in spite of anything Tallahassee tries to do. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
It reminds me, my kids are watching the Lorax in my car on the way to and from school, so I'm hearing all the same language in every morning. Thank you so much for your dedication to the city and this time and service you put in, and for the great legacy you're leaving. Our tree canopy and urban forest really is up there with the airport among the great things that people are proud about Tampa. So thank you so much. You could never get enough credit for that. But most importantly, it doesn't really matter what I say. I've been flooded with calls of people sad that community activists, neighborhood leaders who are sad that you're leaving, and you were so much a part of the real community of Tampa and the grassroots efforts in the neighborhood, and so there are hundreds of people connected to us who thank you at the same time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kathy, you appeared before me in code enforcement. You appeared before me in Variance Review Board.
Yes, sir.
I thank you for the knowledge that you passed on to me. I thank you for the help in helping my decisions. I want to thank you even more for the hard work that you did with people like Kristen Mora, with the builders, with the neighborhood associations, for our wonderful, wonderful tree ordinance. And you have my word that I'm going to fight Tallahassee preemption on that. It's the most legally binding, most ecological binding tree ordinance in the country, and I thank you for that help. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, ladies and gentlemen at home watching TV, if you love your trees, thank Kathy Beck for them being there.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And something that Councilman Dingfelder and Mary Bryant had also indicated, we have a lot of folks here for this commendation, including for Parks. If you're here for this commendation, could you stand up?
I've got my Parks family, my
There
planning
you
and
go.
development.
Yeah.
I'm quite humbled. I'm quite humbled and thank them all for their help in getting this all done. So thank you.
We thank you. It's just a small token that we can give you to respect and honor all the work that you've done and all the time you've done and what really is public service. Because you probably could have gone in the private sector, made more money, maybe hurt some people in the process, but instead you go in the public sector to help people.
That's correct.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to take public comment. I usually take staff reports, but today at 10:30 has been such an exceptionally long ceremonial time that I'd be darned if we didn't do public comment. Could you please raise your hand if you're here for public comment so we can have an idea? Okay, good. Okay, come forward. State your piece. 3 minutes a person. So, and if I may, sir, before you begin, to the administration, we'll probably be doing, and to staff, staff reports at about 10:55 or so. So, go ahead, sir.
Ventez Knott, Tampa, Florida. Lots of pomp and circumstance. I went 30 minutes of pomp and circumstance.
And I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. If I may, we're holding public comment. If you're here, please do not speak in the room as we're holding council meetings. If you could please take it outside so we can hear the speaker. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I went 30 minutes of pomp and circumstance. And there's nothing wrong in recognizing the past and recognizing what's going to come in the future. But the reality is, I've said it previously and I say it today, 02, 20, 2020, a garbage city council, nothing more, nothing less. Don't ever speak to the issues, the real issues. They tell you all this historical nonsense, but it's an insult to African people. That's what it is. They're talking about police officers and what black police officers and what they could do and couldn't do and the changes, but the reality remains the same. I don't give a damn what police officers it is. The reality remains the same. It's an influx of African people incarcerated. Plain and simple. I don't care what color they are. If they move from colonialism to neo-colonialism to settler colonialism, it's the same dynamics for African people. And the things that need to be spoken about, these big budgets, these big billion-dollar budgets, it has never been, from 1824 to right now, it has never been 26% of the budget for the African community. And we're 26% of the population. And we're continuing to be insulted day after day, year after year for 600 years. And the insult go as far as now what you're hearing is white people build the settlements and developments all over our burial sites. MacDill Air Force Base right here at Harbor Island, right here at Channelside, Robles Park, King High School. It's going on all over the city. Insult to African people. And the only things y'all have for us in this city is tricks, stunts, and brute force. Brute force against the African people. Nothing's being done. And y'all insult us every opportunity you get, it's an insult. 2 weeks ago, night parade, Ybor City, insult to the African people. Well, we hang out at the Broadway bar. They put a big blackout fence. Black people can't see the parade. Our kids can't see the parade. And not only that, y'all don't want the niggas to be seen. Y'all don't want us to be seen. insults to African people. We're 26% of this population, and we want 26% of the city budget. I don't give a damn if we took it and we drank alcohol with it. We want it. We deserve it. We're 26% of this population, and we want 26% of these big budgets y'all got. Plain and simple.
And thank you. And Mr. Daniels, I'm going to have to ask our city council attorney, Mr. Shelby, to opine on what I consider to be disruptive language. If you wish to read the rule, Mr. Shelby.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Council Rule 5G, no one present during council meeting shall engage in disruptive behavior, including intentionally making or causing to be made any disruptive sound or noise, or displaying signs or graphics in a manner disruptive to the proceedings. Speakers, Rule 4F, speakers shall refrain from disruptive behavior, including making vulgar or threatening remarks. Speakers shall refrain from launching personal attacks against any city official, city staff member, or member of the public, and comments shall be directed to the council in a body and not to individual council members.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. So when Mr. Daniels watches this on rerun, I would ask that he please be noted that he's been put on notice and to please conduct himself accordingly with regards to what I consider to be, as chair, disruptive behavior.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair?
you. Yes, sir.
In reference to Mr. Daniels' comments as it relates to the night parade, that is under new business on the walk-on.
Sure.
So I will be addressing that later on in the meeting.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, council members, chairman. I'm Christina Costa, City of Tampa resident, and I'm here to speak about the bicycle master plan that you're going to be hearing about later today. I wanted to let you know that recently, in January, at the invitation of Gene Duncan, a group of bicyclists did gather to have a listening session with the city's transportation department, and each of the attendees was given some voting dots, if you will, on their priorities. I'll share with you how that happened and what we did. I was able to kick off our meeting, and I used a technique that was from my favorite boss of all time, Mr. Ken Chenault from American Express. At the beginning of each year, he would inspire the company leadership from all over the world with imaginary headlines, and I'll share with you my imaginary headlines. From the Times, Tampa Bay, land of gracious drivers. Through roadway design improvements and cultural campaign, Tampa Bay drivers now rank the most gracious in the nation. And I'm sharing these with you to get you inspired and be thinking boldly when you hear the presentation about the master plan. Imaginary. Tampa finds success pairing missing middle housing with active transportation. The message I convey to you in this imaginary headline is that there isn't anything that you face as leaders in our community where active, equitable, healthy transportation does not help the issue. It may not be the issue that you are contending with, but by pairing these opportunities, you will find success. You'll love this one. Politico. Tampa Bay region is no longer among the most dangerous by design, according to Smart Growth America. And this is where you come in. Political will for safety over speed is the new normal in our region. This is our vision as bicycle and active transportation advocates. All of you will be called upon with future road design improvements to tell your constituents that 30 to 90 seconds of their commute is worth it for the quality of life in our community. And finally, City Lab. Tampa becomes the Amsterdam of the Southeast. The city goes from worst to first in bicycle friendliness, and two-wheel tourists have nicknamed us Tamsterdam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame. We appreciate it. Next, please.
I'm going to leave some written documents from Emily Hinsdale, who
Thank you
could
very
not be
much, ma'am. We
present.
appreciate it. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Jim Mosma. I'm the North Bon Air Neighborhood Association president, and I'm here to oppose the placement of new digital billboards on Dale Mabry north of Kennedy. This image here is from my bedroom window. And that you can see that would be one of the digital billboards that would be put up, and that would be like having a million lumen nightlight, new nightlight in the neighborhood. Either not to put it up or modify it in some way such that the light doesn't infiltrate into our neighborhood.
What's the cross street on that billboard?
That's Church in North Beach. My house is just down from Donatello's.
I mean the billboard itself.
Oh, I think it's Fig in Dale Mabry. Yes, sir. So, that's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, Geraldine Rogers Toombs. Dr. King said, what will happen if we fail to help the children? I support complete street enhancement for the 34th Street corridor. However, I do not support putting roundabouts at the proposed locations because of the high concentration of children, pedestrians, and bicyclists commuting in those areas. I presented data to you on my last visit reflecting the significant number of traffic crashes occurring at the 40th Street roundabouts in 2018 and 2019. Children are the most vulnerable citizens in our community. Is that the type of danger you want to expose to our children too? The number of roundabout crashes on 40th Street should also be alarming to you and require staff to reassess whether roundabouts is the safest street design. It is interesting how public officials and your staff think that they know what is best for the East Tampa community. Your track record doesn't reflect you have our best interest at heart. Just to name a few reasons for concern. It took the City of Tampa Transportation Department almost a decade to provide road signage on 40th Street, providing instructions regarding how to drive the roundabouts. And no pedestrian crossing lights were installed. Secondly, 40th Street only has one traffic light and one pedestrian crosswalk between Hillsborough Avenue and Bush Boulevard. 40th Street is a 4-lane highway and major corridor for the area. An estimated 30,000 vehicles travel that area daily. There should be pedestrian cross lights and signals throughout the area. I guess the city of Temple Terrace is more concerned about their citizens' safety than the city of Tampa. I was traveling on 50th Street over the weekend and noticed they have 2 pedestrian cross lights between Fowler Avenue and Fletcher. Again, we only have one pedestrian crosswalk for 40th Street and light for a much longer radius. Pedestrians and bicyclists are being required to cross a busy street at their own risk. That decision alone confirms pedestrian safety is not your #1 priority for East Tampa. 34th Street wasn't classified as one of the most dangerous roads in the Tampa Bay area in 2009, but Fowler Avenue and East Hillsborough Avenue, Waters Avenue, Dale Mabry, and Waters intersections, there have been no roundabouts installed on those roads to enhance community safety. It makes me wonder what your real motive is for including roundabouts for 34th Street project. To recommend a roundabout be placed adjacent to a park demonstrate you do not have our children's best interest at heart. Ensuring public safety should always be a #1 priority. You allow the Channel Drive community to have conceptual design options for road safety measures. We deserve the same opportunity to be given options on safety enhancement for the 34th Street corridor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Ann Kulig with the West Shore Alliance, 3109 West Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm here to speak on item number 7 regarding digital billboards and our objection to adding digital billboards along Dale Mabry, north of Kennedy. We participated extensively, for those of you who are here at Council, when this ordinance was enacted 10 years ago originally, allowing digital billboards. We participated extensively in that process. We were in meetings with city staff, Julia Cole at the time, city attorney, Kathy Coyle, the billboard companies, And at the time, they agreed to exclude Dale Mabry. And our position hasn't changed. We have an overlay district for the entirety of that area. You know, visual blight, signage, utilities, et cetera, is one of the things we combat extensively, not just billboards, on-site signs, illegal signs, to clean up the district. You know, there's many items on your agenda today, and I hear you talking about beautifying 34th Street. How can we do that? How can we add park impact fees, which, in case you don't know, exist in West Shore, to beautify the area? How can we work on walk and bike plans and master plans for the city? All these things are quality of life, improving our city, and whether it's Dale Mabry, which happens to be a state road, or any other road, you know, I think we should do the best we can to beautify and improve all of them. And I just don't see how allowing digital billboards in some of these locations that they're proposing, you know, we're most interested in Dale Mabry, really helps you achieve that goal. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Next, please.
Mr. Chairman, Council, Todd Pressman, 450 2nd Avenue South in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm here at Clear Channel Outdoor. There's been a 10-year very positive history of partnership with the city and with the community and citizens and law enforcement. And the digital boards that are proposed before you today and have been with the history of the city for 10 years has opened up the use for small business for the first time. We are proud that we have never received a direct complaint about any digital board, either from individual citizens or through the city. What's proposed today is not a single change of any location restrictions or zoning restrictions or residential protections. It still has a trade-off of the equivalent of 10 paper boards come down for any new digital board. That's still in place. And Clear Channel Outdoor has removed an equivalent of 200 paper boards in the city. That is a huge cleanup or beautification of the city. We've already responded and modified to some council members' concerns that were raised when this first came forward as you moved it forward to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission the staff found the proposal consistent, and the Planning Commission has supported that very strongly. So with respect to Ann, who we sat and talked with, and the citizen, this has been a very positive program. We look forward to continuing the very positive program with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
My name is Pastor Frank Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street. I come to you all in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And we thank God that we are here today. I want to read something out of the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religious or prohibit the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or press, or the rights of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. I hope y'all understand the Constitution, because I got my church located on 1112 East Scott Street, and the way they treat us as black people, they figure that if we're not white, they're not going to recognize us. Right now, they're building up a retention pond right in the back of my church, which they should be building a homeless place for homeless people and low-income tax people. But y'all don't give a damn about us, and we have to let y'all know it. And the lawyer, I guess he just read out something just a while ago that we can't say certain things. But let me tell you something else. The Article 14, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or the immunity of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within the jurisdiction of equal protection. I know y'all exempt black folks from a lot of things that y'all do. You don't care nothing about us. And just like Tony Dang, he come up here with an attitude. He got a right to have an attitude, because the way you all treat poor black folks, and treat us like we're ignorant, that we don't know what we're doing. I got something else I got to read. I know y'all gonna ring the bell on me. Save our children from racist government. The government took the Bible out of school, took prayer out of school. They don't care nothing about God Almighty, but we care. And since we care, we should be recognized as children of the Holy Father. If it wasn't for God Almighty, thank you, Holy Father, we wouldn't be here to talk about it. And stop looking at the color of people's skin and respect people for their personality and what they really are. Glory be to God Almighty. I had a lot of other things I wanted to say about black history, but y'all done rung the bell on me. God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Next, please. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Tom O'Neill, representing Clear Channel Outdoor, 5555 Almerton Road. Thank you for allowing us the privilege to come back before you. I believe there was a very thorough review in 2009, allowing for the digital billboard to start in 2010. Councilman Dingfelder and Miranda were part of that, and I think we ended up with a very pragmatic, structured, and a net gain approach. And as Mr. Pressman indicated, I think we have 10 years of success behind that, with a reduction in the footprint, and there was a limitation on the franchise rights and the roadways, and we're here today to just ask for a small increase to the number and the percentage of boards that can be made digital. I think the program was, again, extremely successful and has been used as a template in many areas. The removal ratio, very high, benefits the city, removes boards from secondary roads and quasi-residential. So I think, again, there's a net gain. I think some of the additional roads that we've asked for, besides paring down based upon the last request at the workshop, even including the Dale Mabry part of the West Shore District. The West Shore District is important to advertisers, to civic events, people that are coming into the area. I mean, you just added half of $1 billion structure there at Midtown with high-rise hotels and restaurants and high-rise condos, new Publix going into West Shore. West Shore and the Dale Mabry area continues to be a thriving, part of the municipality, and to add a couple of digital billboards, we hope won't do anything but enhance the advertiser's ability to speak to those folks. And we feel that, going back to Kathy Beck, probably one of the most instrumental parts was a allowance of 65 feet, which eliminated the need to trim or remove trees. I think the program was very good. It's got built-in protection for the neighborhoods. There's spacing between digital billboards, there's spacing between residential. There's a program that demands that each board have a light reduction scenario so that the board dims as night goes on, as the need for the board no longer to be bright. And I think that affects the neighborhoods and the ability. So we appreciate the consideration moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Dingfelder, really fast.
Quick question. I know that we'll have a public hearing on this, but we've been tweaking it up. I agree with you. I think the original ordinance 10 years ago is positive and headed us in a positive direction. In that little stretch from the stadium on Dale Mabry down to Kennedy, I assume you guys have one or two billboards along there that you want to switch out, or what? And I'm going to ask Ms. Healy the same thing on behalf of her company.
With the spacing that's required between billboards, yes, it shouldn't be more than a couple.
Okay. You've heard a little bit of concern from the folks in Bonaire. I know you were previously aware of that, so we're not at public hearing now, but I just urge you to meet with those folks, and maybe we can tweak it up a little bit more.
Discussions.
Thank you, sir. Next, please. And Ms. Healy, I believe, is our last speaker for public comment, if I'm correct. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm feeling the oldest one. Marilyn Healy Ackerman, 401 East Jackson Street, representing Outfront Media, who is based out of Tampa. And as I listened and I was going back through the chronological events of this ordinance and how we first started, it's been like almost 20 years. And it was a struggle, I think, at the beginning, because some people don't like billboards. And what I thought the city council did at the time, and our two companies, really worked hard because we don't want to be in the neighborhoods. There was a lot of strategic thought about this and how this basically cap and replace ordinance came into being. Then later, the digital component came on board. Everybody was very fearful. We do not want Times Square. And through a lot of evidence, both legal and technical, and a lot of working, they're not intrusive if they're in the right location. And back to where we all started is we want a lot of billboards to come down that aren't even necessarily profitable for the the companies, but they do have value. And so this is a way that we can get one or two more. It's not a big stretch, and we'd like the opportunity to do that. And we're bringing more information back. And as always, we will continue to work with the community. So respectfully, please set this for second reading.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we're going to move onward to our staff reports for the live appearances that are necessitated. And I see here is number 88 to be the first one. And that would be for transportation and stormwater services. Or I'm sorry. Yes, there you go. And we have a really robust agenda, so I'm going to aspire to have each of these go. Let's do 7, just to be realistic. No one here for 88? Okay, let's do then 89. Mr. Dial.
Good morning, Council. Paul Dial, Parks and Recreation. Here just to speak to you regarding the request related to the potential of a advisory council related to a sports commission, sports council, sports committee. Really not to be determined as far as what the titling would be. But I know Councilman Goods had brought up the concept and I think wanted to see where we were at this time. Staff has done significant investigation of this as we've looked at it. The thought is that this really could be part of our master plan process of looking at this being pulled in. It's the concept of looking at a sports commission to support youth athletics across the city, which we have over 2,000 kids involved in youth athletics in the city. And the thought at this time is to ask for this to be part and melded into our park master plan process, to have our consultants as well as what we're doing to look at this and see if it has merit to move forward for any potential recommendation and how it might meld into our future plans with the city.
Thank you, Mr. Dial. Councilman Goods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Dow, for appearing today. I just want to make sure, I've been involved with youth athletics for a long time, and I've been all across the country, and I know what youth sports commissions can do to help recreation departments and city as a whole with a lot of the infighting that goes on in youth athletics, fields, a lot of the issues, backgrounds that they can help with and help be able to get some things moving and help the recreation department. I just want to make sure we're not getting away from that, regardless of the master plan. I just want to make you clear that I'm still going to be pushing to make sure we have a youth sports commission because I know it is a valid need, and I'm glad that you addressed it. It is being looked at within the master plan, so I'm happy for that. But I just want to make sure you know that I'm going to be pushing to make sure we're looking at a sports commission, youth sports commission, because I know the need for it, and especially in our city.
Understood, and it definitely will be within the scope with our consultant to look at that as well as with staff.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Dow. Appreciate it. Okay, now we go back to number 88, Ms. Duncan. I think she was here.
She is.
Oh, there you go. 88.
Vic?
Oh, we're 7 minutes. 7 minutes. So for each one. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Sure thing. So this was, Vic Beade, Director of Transportation and Stormwater Services. Good morning, Council. I'm here for item 88, and this was a staff report that I submitted related to the question about 34th Street and the landscaping and beautification on 34th Street. Subsequent to the staff report, I also did provide a clarification. Basically, this is a resurfacing project where we're adding 3 roundabouts at 21st Avenue, Osborne, and Lake. There will be multimodal improvements as well in line with our Vision Zero strategy, and there are beautification aspects. So the CRA is going to work with the arts program to identify landscaping and beautification opportunities at the roundabouts by using local artists and giving a local flair. I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Anyone with questions? Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, sir, for your written report and for your report here today. I just wanted to sort of triple stress this. I've been in bureaucracies before, and a lot of times everybody goes like this, and but I think it's really important. And my point on this was that when I drive up and down Bayshore, which I do pretty regularly, I look at the beautiful job that the Buckhorn administration did with the landscaping and with the flowers. I mean, it just makes me smile. I drive down and I see flowers, but it shouldn't just be Bayshore. That's why I think there's a great opportunity for tremendous landscaping and flowers in that 34th Street corridor. I don't care what department does it. I think lots of departments will have to work with each other to get it done, but I hope this administration makes that a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll keep that in mind, and landscaping generally is a priority of ours. It ties into our resilience goals as well to reduce the amount of impervious surface, and that will be a performance measure for all of our roadway projects.
So, but again, when I hear about landscaping, I think about green. Okay, when I think about flowers, I think about color, and I would just love to see a little bit more than what we usually do. And it's going to be a year in and year out thing because Florida's tough on flowers, but I just think that it will brighten up and put smiles on everybody's faces, no matter where you live. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
I'm glad to call you my colleague.
Thank you, sir. Vice versa.
And when you say bureaucracy, I know what that means as being a former city employee. You understand? And when you talk about Bayshore and 34th Street, we're talking about two different places. And I know for a fact that Bayshore has a plan because Bayshore is constantly beautified. Constantly. New flowers all the time. It's a constant measure. So when Mr. Dingfelder talks about beautification and constant beautification, I really want to see that somewhere around it because I know Bayshore has a constant protocol. It is a constant measure because they believe that is a vital heart of our city, Bayshore Boulevard with the hospital, South Tampa, and so on. So I want to make sure you understand what Mr. Dingfelder is saying. He's saying that he wants a Bayshore concept. I believe bureaucracy will take its place and won't have to fight for them, Mr. Dingfelder. But I'm hoping that what you're saying is true because I know for a fact, being a former city employee, how the Bayshore situation design model works. Bayshore is to continue to always be beautified all the time with changing the flowers, changing the green, making sure it is a central part of the city of Tampa. Correct?
Well, our plan through the City Moves program is basically to incorporate beautification as part of our resilience and sustainability goals and report on that progress. So it won't just be a concept, we will be reporting on the work that we do. And for 34th Street, we will work with the Parks Department and identify opportunities to beautify and introduce more color to the entire corridor.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Maniscalco.
And the word really isn't equality, the word is equity. You know, just because you have higher paying taxpayers on a certain road in the city, which Bayshore is a beautiful area, the rest of the city deserves this as well. One gentleman who for years has told me, we spend so much money on Bayshore, but West Tampa doesn't get anything. You know, look at some of our main corridors here that are busy. West Tampa doesn't get anything. East Tampa, even less. You drive through there, and I call it the land that time forgot. It's frozen in time because nothing goes on, because it's a poor part of town, or considered a poor part of town. So I'm glad you're doing this feasibility study. because these folks, throughout the city deserve better.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Councilman Miranda.
Along the same line as Councilmember Dingfelder, Councilmember Goods, and Councilmember Maniscalco, all of them have won the same amount of greenery or flowers or change of scenery. Your eye catches these things and they run well. However, with very little money, and I see some of them coming up little by little, with very little money, you can change the look of a lot of things if you just look at them long enough. And when you have those barriers that are about 6 inches high, about 3 feet wide, and when you make a turn, you got to go to the right, and you got that little sign with a little thing that says, go this way, you can't see them. Why? Because the concrete that used to be painted yellow in the front of them is gone because so many cars have hit them. And I'm talking about the things that I see throughout the city, not only in certain areas, throughout the city. And if somebody just started something to help kids from DCT, where you get out early, we do things here, and I'm not being critical. If you just put a little strip, a reflector at night so you can see it, if you can just put where you have a stop sign, something before it, where the sun gives it, and they have it, and everywhere I've seen it in other places, not so many in the city of Tampa, where the sun powers the reflector, says stop, stop. I think people adhere to that. Your eye falls asleep even though you're driving awake because you see the same thing and you think it's all the way through. But the eye sometimes fools the body. And you have to change the outlook of things to notify that they're there. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying what needs to be done. As Mr. Maniscalco talked about, when you look at Himes, it's got 2 streets. Columbus Drive North was not touched, and I wonder why. Yet Columbus Drive South to Kennedy was destroyed. Neighborhoods can't cross from one side or the other, and I'm sure that when Mr. Maniscalco and I go through different neighborhood meetings, we hear about it. I don't know why. I asked the Department of Transportation if it was their call, and they told me absolutely not. That the city of Tampa asked for money to do that, and they gave a grant for it. It was destroyed. There used to be nice trees in the middle of it. Go do it now. Come up any street, go make a left. You're going to end up going right all the way to Kennedy, following a water U-turn into Kennedy Boulevard to go back to the north. 99% of the streets are closed. The neighborhood being destroyed, and the city does not listen. And something has to be changed to make the city all look nice. And I'm not saying, again, that we're not trying. We have to have a better effort and a better plan. And you can change these things with very little money. Those concrete barriers are there. That doesn't mean you can't fix them and get some organizations together and pressure wash it all and make it look. It doesn't even look like cement anymore. It looks like some old-fashioned gravel with mold on it. And that's not the idea. And by the way, Columbus Drive is one of the entries into the city of Tampa from the airport. Oh, those got 3 names, Boy Scout Boulevard and so forth, and then Columbus Drive. But Spruce, Boy Scout, you get off a plane, you want to go Columbus Drive, you're going to get lost for 2 weeks because they got 3 names, the same street. And these are the things that have to be looked at. I'm not saying to change, that's your job, not mine. But it's something that you should address very, very shortly because we're getting a city that is going to have more population every day. And you know what some citizens are telling me? We got to stop that. And my answer is I don't build walls. Your grandkids are coming back from college. The kids are staying here and finding a place and making this their home. What more than when the people live here stay here? That's part of a population increase that we have that we never had before. And it's through the efforts of your department and others that we're getting there. And I appreciate it very much. But just think of the little things. If you fix the little things, the big ones will never have to be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Carlson.
Just quickly, people who are looking to invest in our area, they don't judge us by the richest neighborhoods, they judge us by the poorest neighborhoods. And we need to make sure that, as my colleague said, that we have equity throughout. And I know you all are looking at that, and I appreciate it. The last mayor was focused on downtown to the exclusion of everybody else, and the whole philosophy of the city is changing now. And we can't. It's going to take us more than 8 years to catch up with the neglect that was left there. But we need to stay mindful of it and make sure that we present a good face to the world for everybody. But most importantly, that we provide safe and beautiful places for all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, next we move to item number 90, which was called by Councilman Dingfelder. Wipeout. Did I hear wipeout?
Yeah. Good morning, City Council. Morris Massey, Deputy City Attorney. Hopefully not wiping out this morning. I don't need to wipe out anymore.
Darn scooters.
And
Mr. Massey, and Ms. Hardy, I see, is here as well.
Yes, she is.
So thank you for your written report. I think we've gotten a report now that says that park impact fees are feasible, that in order to proceed further, we need to do a study, just like we do for all impact fees. That's a requirement of state law. I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that Parks, who I think Mr. Dial was here, is on board with including the impact fee study with their big parks study that's coming soon.
And I've communicated with Mr. Dial, and he is. We're going to look at impact fees and include that within the scope, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, if I could just add that part of the master plan process, I think that as we're looking at costs related to improvements, we ought to be looking at all of the revenue potential sources that we might have through the process. So any of that would be reviewed and considered through the process, and then ultimately decisions being made. But I think we ought to provide all that information.
But just for clarity, Mr. Massey knows where I'm coming from. We need to include that as a formal process in that study.
Correct.
As opposed to just casually looking at it and coming up and saying, yeah, we need additional fee sources. That's the intent of my motion, and if I need to further that intent, I'll be glad to.
A couple of things. The statute, when we now have a statute governing impact fees, requires that the first step in the whole process is that we have to have recent local data upon which to justify the levy of the impact fee. This study obviously will satisfy that first requirement. The second step, and this is, again, we can include this in the scope, is that depending on what that data shows, assuming that shows that we have deficiencies or projected deficiencies in the future, and we need to find sources of funding to address that, then the second step would be then to go forward and go through the actual analytical steps. We have to satisfy what's called the dual rational nexus test and institute impact fee zones. One of the things I'm not sure, I want to make sure council is aware of, impact fees can only be spent on capital improvements. Can be for new recreational facilities, for expanding parks, getting additional parks. We can't use it on actual maintenance or personnel costs. And so
We've got plenty of capital needs.
Yeah, we have lots of capital needs, but there are other needs that follow the capital needs as well. So it's I think the park study is going to look at all of that, and so it's going to be a very holistic, but I understand the intent of council is that you would like us to look at moving forward with the impact fees and include the necessary steps in that study to move forward with the impact fees if the needs analysis basically shows that we are going to need additional facilities, which likely it will.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Morris.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're back.
Yeah.
But that's a two-step process.
Right.
So when you finish the first step, Mr. Dahl, perhaps you even want to report back to council as we proceed, and then I have no doubt the needs is going to say, yeah, we have the need, and then we can go into step two as well. But I don't want to lose out on an entire year during this process just to come back and say, okay, now we need to start on impact fees.
I understand that part of the intent is that you don't want to necessarily, we have to go out and have an additional study done on top of the initial study. And I think the concept is that this consultant and this study can be expanded and the scope can be expanded or can include the whole impact fee analysis that's necessary.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilman Good.
You know, Mr. Dingfelder, you're right. We've got a lot of things that we've been talking about for this first almost 9.5 to 10 months with our Parks and Recreation Department. It starts in the park. That's the theme over there. We have a lot of issues and needs that communities are crying about. And we've got this master plan study. I just want to know, when are we going to actually get this RFP ready to go, and looking at a time frame, because people are anxious, people are hungry, and we need to move. And I don't want to just keep dragging. We need to find somebody, get it done, and so we can start moving.
Actually, a firm has been selected at this point, approved by the mayor, and we are in the process now of developing the scope with them, so the timing is very good with this. Developing the scope, and we anticipate having them starting the process this spring. So we're very close to the process beginning. They'll also put together a timeline for us for the entire process, so we'll be able to speak to when we should see, draft documents and that type of thing. But we are in that negotiation process with them right now.
Can you, and when it's all kind of wrapped up a little bit, can you come back and give us an update on that master plan, where we're at, so we can know what the firm is saying, what, how we're going to proceed and so forth?
I'd be glad to do that.
In fact, City Council, there's a requirement now under state law that we have to give a 90-day notice, basically a hearing to the development community in advance of imposing impact fees. So we will have to come back to you in advance and say, yes, we need the impact fees, this is how we're going to do it, and that has to be done. There's a 90-day period that's built into the state statute now, so we're going to have to do that.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And I just want to say on the idea, Councilman Dingfelder, I salute you for bringing this forward. It's something that I strongly support looking at. So thank you for that. Thank you. Next, we move to item number 91. Brought on by Councilman Goods. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Councilman Goods had asked status of the NFL Yet Center. There is a synthetic turf football field that's a multi-purpose field that is there. What we have had some incidences in the past of some vandalism there. I will tell you that I did check with staff on the timing of when the most recent was. It's been about a year since the last incident that we've had there on the synthetic turf field. We do have some occasional vandalism there, but nothing that has been major since about a year ago. However, what we're doing is we're going to be working with TPD and doing some more site stops at the location, also our security as well. If we deem from that we're not getting the results that we feel that we need from this, we'll look at some other options of camera, some more lighting, and potentially fencing in the future. All those that can be options that we look at, and we would put in a request in our funding in FY21 if needed to do something substantial at that point. But we do have a lot of interaction with the community of traveling through that area and through the park to the NFL Yet Center, and so we'd like to work with security and TPD to try to resolve this at this time.
That's an option, but a person who frequents that on a frequent basis and know how utilized that field is, because that's like the only best thing we have is that little turf field we got. And everybody wants to utilize it. Jackson Heights NFL Yet Center is the hub for a lot of events. My concern when you look at to the west of the field, where the gate is constantly being cut because we have the little small chain link fences. They're coming on the back fence to the south, to the north. My concern is, I know for years they talked about fencing. At one point someone said it was supposed to be a budget item, or it was when Joe Greenland was here. I don't know, because a lot of times people don't know to know. When they hear it was budgeted, people don't know, well, what budget you're talking about or what money you're talking about. And that's another thing we need to start cleaning up in the city so people can understand when you talk about money, where does that money come from? When we talk about a city budget, that means this council who approves this budget to then for the mayor to go ahead and do what you need to do. And then you may have an internal budget with some money to do for what. So we need to start clarifying when people start saying, well, it's budgeted money. Well, my main thing is that's the only thing we have over there right now that is the beautification we have for a park. And I just want to make sure, because I know the turf was tore at one time and they had to come back and fix that thing, and it might be here now. But I just want to make sure, because other people have asked me about the fencing, because they thought fencing should have been put up all around to be able to keep out some of the undesirables that do. We've got a lot of other community partners that kind of gravitate to us, and when we use or at nighttime, critters want to jump the gate and do things over there. So I'm glad you're looking at the extra police patrol, but being a police officer, sometimes that's hard to get extra patrol sometimes because of that hub where we're at, and they're pretty busy right there. So I don't know if we have the security team within the Parks Department get extra patrol, but I just think we've got to really look at cameras to the back of that building coming off. To the back is one, and also a major fencing that will keep those undesirables from cutting the fencing, especially to the west side where the apartment complex is coming through. So we can kind of look in that a little.
Very good, and I will say that has been a topic of discussion before. It wasn't an approved budget item, but we will definitely take that in consideration. We'll solve this. Bottom line, we'll solve it, and we'll come back if need be in our budget request.
Because you know it takes a lot of money to fix a turf field.
There is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, sir. Okay. 92, we'll deal with that later as I'm just doing a report on that. We'll discuss that at an appropriate time. 93, Chief Nick.
Good morning, Council. Nicholas Cicero, Tampa Fire Rescue. Glad to see you all this morning. Pleasure to be here. Councilman Vieira, I am here today to follow up on our January meeting, and you had a request to elaborate on the amount and level of responses in the Fire Station 13 area and what options for relief perhaps that might be pending for that, or what we could do. So here we are. We have we always look at data. We continue to look at data in a myriads of levels, from the neighborhoods to the fire district to the fire station response. So there's several levels that we absolutely look at. In every aspect relating to your question, there is no question that station is extremely busy. That whole surrounding area, that district is busy. It adjoins another busy district, District 4, and together they make a formidable process for us to try to mitigate incidents when they happen. But with that said, there's no saying that it's not busy. That leads me to say that as early as 2015, we identified that heavy use area. Hence, you are familiar with the peak units that we did establish back in 2015, and we continue running to this day to help augment that. But to your end, there are certain areas, certainly to if you look at 13, the station itself, if you look at just to the south, just to the southwest, and just directly to the east, there are some heavy pockets of use over there, okay? And the peaks have helped, but to your question, what we would surmise to do is we will add a second rescue unit to Station 13, okay? This will be on a 24-hour period, okay? A 24-hour period. And that coverage will go for 6 months. It does a couple of things when we do that. And I don't mean to say that the reason that we're doing that, it currently aligns with the budget process that all of us will be into. It currently will align the usage and budget adjustments that will need to occur for that. But it gives us a bit of a pause point. But I can say that within about 2 weeks, or within 2 weeks, we can certainly institute that service to do that. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I have been highly encouraged by a dialogue with the mayor. It challenges me to come up with different avenues of response and deployment, and which I'm grateful to do. So we keep moving from that. And also, I don't want it to be lost that in the whole litany of time that has recently gone by, we have, I believe, improved the process and the coverage for the citizens with a better area of response for the new Tampa contract, Station 16's area, and now Station 13's area. So I believe that we are making progress. We didn't get into it in a blink of an eye. We won't get out of it in a blink of an eye, but we are making forward progress. So that is my report to you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate that 110%. You know, when I look at Station 13, I look at first responders who are in need of something of don't want to call it a bailout, but some real serious, robust help like you've just discussed and like you've just committed to. So first, I wanted to thank you, Chief, for your leadership. I appreciate that 110%. You know, when you look at the numbers, I want to go over some of the statistics that we've been able to find on Station 13 just to show the North Tampa communities out there, the many communities that are served by this. That includes Terrace Park, Bush Boulevard, Forest Hills, Copeland Park, etc., all of North Tampa. Just what a busy station this one really is. It's a very acute issue, and I thank you for your prompt response to that. For last year, this was the busiest rescue, I believe, in the city of Tampa, with 10.89 calls a day, an engine, 14.69 average calls a day, most alarms for an engine, almost a little over 5,300, with the next highest being just over 4,000. So in other words, this is a very, very, very busy station. We have the national run survey over here from 2018 showing that Station 13 was the 54th busiest station in the United States with almost 10,000 runs, and 13 was also the 13th busiest engine. And for years before that, it continued to be high up. So this is a station that really, really needs help, and I really, really appreciate your coming forward and working with the administration to get the help that these communities need. We talk about a lot of different things in local government, and I think we can all agree on the fact that public safety is the number one responsibility of us seven up here. It's the number one responsibility of our mayor. We have a mayor who served as our former chief of police. Our chief of staff was the former head of SWAT. I wouldn't dare lecture them on public safety because they know 110% about it. Something that I've put forward that I hope that we can move on is, you know, we talked a lot up here today about a master plan for our parks and recreation. I want to see a master plan for public safety. I want to see the numbers in terms of what all parts of the city of Tampa, what their percentages are, what their standards are with regards to public safety whenever it comes to fire, whenever it comes to emergency EMS, whenever it comes to police, etc., so that we can know, number one, where our deficits are, and then number two, how to build a bridge to get there, to remedy those deficits. That's information that we need to have as public officials, that all of us do, so that we don't come up with patchwork type work. Oh, let's look at East Tampa. Let's look at North Tampa. No, let's have all of the facts on public safety come before us, because that's our most important issue here. So I know I speak on behalf of my constituents, sir, when I say thank you for that. We look forward to, hopefully seeing that in the budget. Now, question for you. I know that I believe it was Fire Station 16 that had the manpower to take care of the additional vehicle that was there. This will require more manpower, correct?
It will. It will. It will require more personnel, as we like to say, and it will do that. But through the open dialogue with the mayor and the chief of staff, there will be opportunities that we will have to be in an overtime status. But we're willing to commit to do that to show the higher level of service that is required for that area, and we will continue to adjust that as we move forward. Hence, again, the 6-month period for evaluation to see where those gaps really might lie.
So we're talking about, just to confirm, a brand new full-time rescue car, correct?
You will not have a new. We will take one of the rescues from stock currently, and yes, it will be 24/7.
Okay, so
at the
full-time.
location. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Great. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Councilman, then Guido.
Chief, let me first say there was an incident with my father the other night. The guys from Rescue 11 responded, and Engine 18. They had a heck of a job. There's no money when you're talking about a life, when you're waiting there for that ambulance to get there. When you got family around, neighbors are coming out, there's just no money that can do that. So I'm glad that we have an administration, me being the retiree, the police department, the chief of staff, and the mayor. When you've been in the trenches for those situations and you've had to work on people to respond and wait, you understand a little bit more. Maybe it's in different administrations. You understand what it means to work on somebody or to be waiting for that car. And we shouldn't have to have the citizens waiting for a car. 13 is busy. We know it's busy. I think Mr. Chairman is right on looking at the master plan for public safety. That's what people care about the most. If someone's hurt, they want to know when you're getting there. Why aren't they here yet? So I just want to thank you for working with us for the 9.5 months we've been here on these rescue cars to get what's needed for our citizens. And again, if you would take that message back to the guys at Rescue 11 and Union 13, my family graciously thanked them for the service rendered the other night when my father was
Thank you, sir. We certainly will. May I add one item, just because both of you have mentioned it? So I'll change the terminology, but it's a great question, and we do go through an accreditation process at the department. And while it's not called a master plan, we have a document that specifies and outlines all those questions that you just asked. Mm-hmm. We have started that process now, so we will have that. It's not called a master plan, but it is called a standard of cover, and certainly that can be provided.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate
yes, absolutely.
it, sir. Councilman Maniscalco, then Councilman Miranda.
Thank you for your leadership, the union, the administration. Our city is growing rapidly. We see the population increase for the last decade, and public safety, should be our #1 priority. It's such a huge chunk of our budget. I mean, obviously we are investing in it, but you can never invest enough. When, as Councilmember Good said, when seconds count, police are minutes away, EMS is minutes away. We can't be overworked and underutilized when it comes to life and death situations like this. So this is, making this a full-time item is, of course, a necessity. There's wants and needs, and this is something that we definitely need to be investing in. So thank you for your leadership and everyone that helped make this happen.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you very much for you and all your service to the city and everyone in your fire department, all the men and women of 754. When you look at the city, and I'm sure that you have statistics just like police, they have it by little districts and little numbers. They can tell you all the calls they made just like yourself and your department. What I'd like to see, and I'm sure more likely you have one already, and I may be speaking, we're going to have an enormous increase in population. We already started having enormous increase in population. When you see the buildings going up, they're not going up to be empty. They're going up because those that are putting their money and hard work into it feel that there's going to be a need to have that for what's coming. And certainly when you look at the next 10 years and the next 20 years, you look around and you say, wow, what's happening here? Well, as you well know, Tampa was the #1 city for livability east of the Mississippi in population and growth. The only behind one city in the whole country, that was Phoenix, Arizona. We finished second in the whole country, if I recall. Along those lines, it looks like, people always say, why do the people come here? Well, the ones that were going out and going to school were not coming back. Today, thanks to the family and the city, most of them are coming back and making their home where they started their childhood, living here, born here. So, however, it's not because Jane Castor's the mayor or you're the chief or there's 7 city council members that they're coming. It's because we only have 2 seasons here. And you've heard me say this before. Summer, and look at today, and this is February, and look at January, and look at December, and Christmas. Let me repeat that. You only have summer and Christmas. Those are the only 2 seasons you have. So when you look up north today, you look at the weather, especially in that Richmond, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. Who wants to do all that? Who wants to live like that? When you can have the sun and a little air conditioning, you're all right. However, we do have some problems. We must be ready for the next 10 years in preparation of what your department is going to look like and how many men and women you're going to need and how much money you need in capital improvement, because you're going to have to expand your station. You're going to have to expand, and these things aren't cheap. I see where a pumper is $732,000, and an ambulance, or whatever you want to call it, a rescue squad is $360,000 or so, and those things are expensive. So these are the things that your department has got to be ready for, not for today. And I used to say one day, it was yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever. That's the model you're going to have to need, because going forward, yesterday doesn't count for today doesn't count for tomorrow, and tomorrow's got to go into the future, and you got to have your plan made to make sure that you have protection, like all the other council members have spoken, about public safety is our first priority, not only in this city, but in the whole United States. And we want to thank you, and we have to be prepared. I appreciate all your years of service and the good work. And I appreciate borrowing your father's car when I was a teenager.
That was my uncle's car, but
Your
he
uncle's car.
appreciates
Well,
it
it's
too.
somebody's family, I remember.
Yes, yes.
Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for everything you do for us. Station 9. All stations are my favorite. Station 9 is a fleet maintenance station, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Are we going to come to a point where we're going to need another station like Station 9?
Yes, sir.
Can you also advise us on that? Because if we can't keep these vehicles moving, if we can't keep these vehicles running, they're of no point.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
please keep us advised, and we're going to need another station like Station 9 that is going to need fleet maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
And Councilman, did you? Just if you had a quick question, go ahead. Just quick, and let's move briskly because we got a lot.
Chief,
to go.
you know, my district has a lot of buildings in it, high-rise buildings, and my concern is, I think we need to start talking to these developers when they're getting ready to build buildings, to see about having a portion of that building for our fire rescue. I mean, I think that's important when you look at other cities, that maybe we can get some partnerships with some of these new developers that are developing these big buildings or whatever. Say, hey, can we have that ground floor as a fire station or whatever? However they're doing it in other places. Let's take some ideas from some other places to be able to move forward to the new century, because, you know, those are huge buildings up there. Do we have the equipment that's ready and available right then and there to help get a fire out in those big buildings and so forth? So I'm hoping also that we're looking toward the future to look at new development, and maybe the city can get into some incentives and things like that to where we can help move things along for our public safety.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. And quick question: the vehicle you're talking about, when do you think it'll be in place, roughly, if you can assess it this time?
I would say less than 2 weeks, quite
Great.
honestly. A week to two. I think sooner than later.
Marvelous. And that'll be funded, I guess, in the forthcoming budget, or how?
Well, that's that 6 month, and then the deliberation that will go. Yes, hopefully in the budget, because I don't think that the runs are going to get any less. But that's that. Again, we have a strategy. The tactics will be applied. We review the information, and then we make the adequate decision at the mayor's level.
Yes.
In concert with you. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for your leadership. I thank you, and also for all the work that you do with all the men and women over at 754 who are here today for this and for a little contract they want approved as well. But we appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Each and every one of you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir. Okay, next we move onward to item number 94.
Good afternoon, Vic Pide, Transportation, Stormwater. This is related to a request by council for creating a citywide comprehensive sidewalk plan. I'd like to report that.
And I apologize. Pardon me. We're coming on at 11:30. We haven't even gotten onto the consent agenda. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Including this one, staff reports. My aspiration is to get out of here by 12:30, not for everything, but with staff reports finish and consent agenda, and then number 6, I believe it was at very least. So that would be about 6 minutes or so for each of these. So I'm optimistic and realistic. We can do it if I would only shut up. Go ahead.
Can I just say one? I think we should combine the next two because they're similar in the way that
94, 95?
Yeah, in the way
well
that
said. There you go. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Great, and they are very related. So the one item was for a comprehensive master plan for sidewalks, and the other item is related to a comprehensive bicycle lane plan. I'm happy to report that we have both in very advanced stages of development. So on the sidewalks, and both are very critical to our Vision Zero initiative. They're also very critical to resilience and sustainability for obvious reasons. So on the sidewalks, we have a GIS-based plan that lays out existing gaps in our sidewalks, and there are many. Our complete need for sidewalks on either side of every street in Tampa currently is about 1,270 miles. We have identified our top priority locations to enhance connectivity on the basis primarily of equity and opportunity. And that's about 27 miles of sidewalk needed. Our budget currently is around $870,000 for sidewalks. That gives us 1 mile of sidewalk, and a lot of that budget is spent on maintenance of existing sidewalks. System preservation is a very significant need, and it's been identified as such as well. But speaking to the equity piece on sidewalks, we look at equity not only in terms of income, not only in terms of ability, not only in terms of opportunity, but a combination of them. So proximity to schools is very high on our equity considerations. Income is very high up there. Proximity to transit facilities, which also ties to opportunity, access to jobs. ADA goals, which is people of all abilities being able to utilize our facilities, and location proximate to very high volume corridors. And finally, of course, ease of construction and benefit over cost in terms of the money that we spent on it. So that's sidewalks. On the bicycles, we do have a comprehensive bike walk plan as well. We've been working with the MPO since 2011 to develop the same. Many aspects of our bicycle facilities and bike plans are already deployed. You see parts of the Green Artery and the Green Spine being deployed. One part of it was Cass Street. Another part of it is being built on 34th Street. And we've put in like over 100 miles of bicycle facilities of various types, from premium that are median separated and completely safe and comfortable to sharrows or shared lane markings. Over the last several years, the DOT has added another 46 miles in our area as well. So we continue to make progress in both bicycle and pedestrian facilities. They're key components of active transportation, and studies show that neighborhoods that have good bike and ped facilities have better health outcomes. They consume lesser energy as well, so we constantly examine the nexus of energy, health, and our transportation program.
Did you give your name before you spoke?
Yes, sir, but I'll repeat it. Vic Bide,
Okay.
Transportation Stormwater.
Sir? Councilman Carlson, then Councilman Dingfelder.
Yeah, thank you. And I've looked through tons and tons of documents that you all have about all of this, and appreciate it. I think there were two perspectives on this, and I made the motion. Thanks everybody for supporting it. Maybe three perspectives. One is that we were anticipating that All for Transportation would go through, and so you mentioned you basically have the budget to do repairs and a few new sidewalks a year. And I may have the number slightly off, but if that money came through, which it may not now, it's like $6 million a year. Whatever the number is, it's a much bigger number.
Yes,
And I think that's just for sidewalks. And so I think a big part of this was to try to figure out if you had a lot more money, would you use the same plan and accelerate it, or would you create a new plan?
We'd use the same plan because it is a prioritized plan based on the criteria we mentioned. We'd just be able to do a lot more and meet that need of getting everything up to date within 30 years. We'd make a 30-year plan.
The second thing was there's a lot of documents. I'm a communication person. I wish there was a very simple document that in your memo of February 11th, there's trying to pull it up here. There's a chart that's kind of a summary chart of the vision. I don't know if you happen to have anything. Yeah. Anyway, there's a citywide map, and it has different color codings, and it has phases. And I think pictures are very helpful to people to try to figure out what the plan looks like, or maybe we call it a vision document instead of plan, because engineers think about planning differently. But anything we can do to have simple drawings and maps, and maybe a bicycle one and a sidewalk one, and then overlay combined, and however you want to color code it. But something simple that we could give to neighborhood associations and talk to neighbors about would be super helpful, especially in light of discussions like Beta Bay. what part of as I talk to the people who are against the proposed plans for Bay to Bay, there are some people who don't like bicycles at all on the street, and they are afraid of every road turning into a bicycle path, and that's not in the plan. And so, as I've talked to them about it, if they knew what the plan was, then they would maybe not oppose the few roads that would have dedicated lanes. And the third point is that Christina Costa, who spoke earlier, sent me a long memo, which I can send you. Other activists have sent me memos. They're really eager to take it to the next level. I know you all are too if we get money. But there are all kinds of other things that we could add. One of the criticisms from the last 8 years was that there was a measure of bike lane miles, not in protected lanes or lanes that are usable. Yes. And so, I think we have to be smart about what the goals are and try to figure out how to follow that. But thank you all for following up, and let us know if we can help you.
Thank you,
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Vic. We talk about public safety, but I think sidewalks and bike lanes definitely are a huge part of that. So we are severely under budgeted on this,
Yes.
and it's a shame. And I want to reinforce what Councilman Carlson said, was if the courts strike down the all for transportation, then we will put it back on the ballot again, and this is one of the big things that we will use it for. And I just want to make that abundantly clear to the community that we're if that happens, we might have one strike against us, but we're going to stay up at that and keep swinging until this is done right. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
council members? Councilmember Citro.
Whenever I go to the community and we start talking about sidewalks, especially to and from schools, especially when mothers have to push their baby strollers in the road, the first thing that people ask me is, what happened to our sidewalk fund? How much money do we have in that? Do you know offhand?
$870,000 a year. That's our FY20 budget.
$870,000. So every time we tell somebody that's building a house or redoing a house, 51%, and they have to put a sidewalk in the front of their house, and they choose not to and pay into the sidewalk fund, we're only getting $800,000 a year.
Yes, there is an in lieu mechanism.
I don't think the whole 870 is from the in lieu.
No, the 870 is actually our budget from mainly from local option gas tax. So that is the city's budget
again,
for
I'm going back
sidewalks.
to where our sidewalk fund is at.
I'm sorry?
Where our sidewalk fund is at.
How big is the in
The
lieu?
mitigation fund.
Yes. How much
I'll
is
need
the-
to find out the details on that. I'll get back to you on
Because
that.
after years, since Councilman Salcena and Councilman Dinkfelder started this thing, should we have a few bucks there somewhere? I'm just asking. If
So
you can
as-
provide that for me
Sure.
and for the council members, I would greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. What is the linear cost per linear foot to build the sidewalk now?
So about a mile of sidewalk.
No, each foot.
I don't have the exact cost.
And the reason I ask, I remember one time it was high in the high 40s, and then somehow we finally got it to 29. I don't know where it's at now. And I don't want to mislead anybody. What we did in the past is sometimes was absolutely incorrecto. And let me explain why. You had a street, you had a ditch, and you want to put a sidewalk. And the people are going to jump over the ditch to walk the sidewalk for 60 feet, and then they're going to jump the ditch back. That's how the main course was. You go back on the street to walk the way home. No one does that. I'm not blaming you. No one does that. I can show you now in the city of Tampa at least 50 places where you built a sidewalk and it fixed it to a tree. You got to go around the tree to get back on the sidewalk. It should never happen that way. I can show you places where you walk on the sidewalk and there's a roadblock because there's a concrete fence and sidewalk stops there. I can show you where you have a telephone pole or electric pole in the middle of the sidewalk. And I'm just bringing out the negatives. There's a lot of positives, but I want to make sure that we do it without thinking, oh, we're going to put a sidewalk to say we have a sidewalk when it doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Point
much.
taken, sir.
When All for Transportation came up, I endorsed it early on. And I was going into re-election a few months afterwards, and people were telling me, you're going into re-election, but you're supporting raising taxes. That's not very wise. Regardless, it was the right thing to do, because before I got elected, people throughout West Tampa specifically would ask me, and they still ask me yesterday, when are you going to pave the roads? When are you going to add bike lanes? Most importantly, when are you going to add sidewalks? Not just for the kids to get to the school bus or to school safely, but for the elderly and folks that rely on walking. And it's frustrating that now we're tied up in litigation and we don't know what's going to happen because the people have spoken overwhelmingly, and that money would have helped us significantly. I mean, you told us what the numbers were, what we have budgeted, under $1 million for new projects. I know what it costs to pave a little stretch of road. I know what it costs to build a little stretch of sidewalk. And we have a big city and we have a lot of people that need to get around. And, you know, I hope that the courts rule in favor of what the people said. Should it be struck down and we have to take it back to the ballot, whatever, that's another thing, you know, whatever the county commission says. But that funding is so desperately needed. We talked about public safety with police and fire, but these are basic necessities, basic essentials. If you look how cities were built before, for example, downtown, they did there was a bond agreement, whatever, back over 100 years ago to fund City Hall and to lay down modern infrastructure for downtown Tampa, which included sidewalks and the grid pattern that we have here. We were organized at one point, but as we grew, and you had development here and a house built there and things changed and whatnot, so we have patchy sidewalk design. We don't have bike lanes because that's a conversation we've had in the last decade. People that want bicycle safety. We had Christine speak earlier regarding bike lanes. We're one of the worst places in the United States. And I've been all over the place and so many different cities throughout the world and here do things differently. But without that critical funding, which, you know, it's up to a judge, up to the courts, now, you know, we won't be able to get to where we need to be because we see how underfunded we are. So thank you, and I hope the courts rule favorably so that we can, you know, expand this. I mean, that budget is nothing. I see how $1 million, you know, is peanuts in a budget as large as we have. So that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, and I wanted to echo those comments. Yesterday, I went to the county commission. They were going to speak on the idea of having a backup penny sales tax initiative. I went and spoke in favor of it, and I did that because for the same reason that I endorsed All for Transportation when it came up in 2018, because this is common sense. And it's something that elected officials have got to be on the forefront of, because I always joke with people, we were not elected necessarily to get reelected. We were elected to do the right thing and then hope and pray that we get reelected because we're doing the right thing. And All for Transportation and what we're trying to do now in the event that we have to go for another replacement penny is the right thing to do. It doesn't get us luxury. It gets us to where we need to be as a city and as a community. And that's a sad statement on our on public affairs and for many years in our city that we have to do this, but we are, and let's make it happen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we move to item, I believe it is, so that was 94, 95? Yeah. Okay, great. 96. And Councilman Carlson, Tampa Bay Water. Mr. Weber, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Council. Chuck Weber, Water Department. I'm happy to address any questions you may have on this item.
Sir, you're at item.
You want to just, the members of the public didn't see the memo. You want to just give the 30-second on what the memo said?
Sure. There was an error in the original transmission. It contained a statement that described a graph from last year's. We should have changed that statement to reflect the direction we're heading. So we have since changed that statement and submitted the correction.
Thank you. And I had a couple clarifications. So by changing that language, did the demand forecast change? I think that was included in that report.
The demand forecast hasn't changed, no.
So in your forecast of what you might buy from Tampa Bay Water, did that change so that before you said you're not going to buy the wrong statement said we wouldn't be buying anything from Tampa Bay Water, but now in our demand forecast for the future, are we going to be buying it? Did we change that chart, or are we not?
We did not change the chart, no. It shows the forecasted purchases going to zero, I believe, in 2027 or farther out. And rather than flipping that back and forth until we resolve any questions we have about the direction we're heading with reuse, we chose to leave that the same.
is there a danger because we're not in their demand projections that they might not? I think they're required by law to supply water to the region. So if we say that we're not going to buy any water from them, in lieu of us having some other alternative, isn't that our only option? I mean, could they not have enough water for us in the future if we don't tell them that we might be buying some?
I'm happy to discuss it with Tampa Bay staff. I haven't heard from them since I submitted the original Exhibit K or the correction, but I'm happy to discuss it with them.
I mean, right now, that's our backup plan, right? I mean, I think currently you sent out a notice in December to ratepayers that we were going to be buying water from them. So if in lieu of having some other plan, that's what we would be buying, right?
That is the current plan, is to purchase water from Tampa Bay Water, yes.
And so shouldn't we update the demand forecast to until we get some other option approved? Shouldn't we update that for the future to tell them that in lieu of this, we may be buying?
I'm certainly happy to discuss it with them. In the past, when we've submitted the exhibit, no matter what we have projected for usage, they have always budgeted 6 MGD. I believe that's their current plan.
And then related to that, when we spoke the other day, you have been buying water from them for a couple months, I think, and you said that you call it water quality, they call it pH balance difference or different methods of treatment. They also say that one of the reasons for the quote-unquote quality problem is that if you don't use it regularly, the water that backs up in the pipe may have some other substances, and once you start using it regularly, then it's better. But can you just tell the public, have you had many complaints since that happened? And from your perspective, that you said the quality or the difference is not as much as it was before?
Sure, that is an excellent question. Since I've raised that issue of the quality, this time around we did something different. We worked with Tampa Bay Water. Normally, when we've purchased water from Tampa Bay Water in the past, it's been during the drought season. And we would have to, or they would, ramp up the well field, Morris Bridge well field. And the water quality that comes out of Morris Bridge well field is significantly different than the surface water that we have from our own treatment plant. So what we were able to do, because we're not in a drought situation, my understanding is they have more water available from their surface water plant. So this time around, we've got water from their surface water plant, which is more similar to what we have coming out of our own treatment plant. And when you blend those two waters together, we didn't have any water quality complaints or issues this time around. So hopefully moving forward, if we're able to get that kind of water quality, we shouldn't have any issues when we purchase water.
Thank you. And last thing, I heard a lot of kudos for you and the department for adding Tampa into, I think it's called the Regional Demand Conservation Program. Maybe you could explain what that is and
I wasn't aware we got any kudos.
Maybe it's all in private, but they were in terms of regionalism. I think that that the signal that this, if it's true that the city has rejoined that, so that's my first question. It's a signal to the region that we're looking to collaborate and participate in the regional effort.
Well, certainly we always want to collaborate and participate in the regional efforts. Tampa opted out of the demand management program that they're just starting. It isn't fully implemented yet. The way they structured the program is that all the member governments are already automatically opted in unless we send a letter opting out. So the next opportunity to send a letter to opt out is in June. I don't believe at this point we're intending to do that, but I don't think that decision has been made by the administration yet. So moving forward, part of the requirements of being part of that demand management program is supplying and sending the billing information for all of our customers on a monthly basis. So we've implemented a new utility management system, and we're in the process of developing reports so that we can provide that data. So we were not in a good position to provide that data as we were going in between two different systems for our utility management system, and the demand management program that they were building really wasn't rolled out yet as well.
Yeah, and just the way I understand it, what that is a program to help city and the region help individuals to manage their own water better, and so if there are spikes or whatever, they can manage their water usage internally. But that leads to the question, and back to the demand forecast is, I think months ago I was told that if we were a part of that program or other more aggressive conservation programs, we might be able to save 4 or 5 MGD. And so does the fact that we're now a part of that affect your demand forecast or your supply forecast?
Well, certainly, I mean, conservation is a big part of making sure we have enough water. And since we started our own conservation programs at the city of Tampa, we've reduced demand by 41%. And there are voluntary efforts left, but they're not going to be enough. If I had more time, I'd be happy to talk all day about it.
Good, thank you.
And let me, Councilman Dingfelder, then Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson, you were done?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, you were, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Just
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. I'm glad that we got into a brief discussion about conservation. We've been doing that for years. We need to keep it up and pursue it very aggressively. I know on occasion it does conflict with our revenue stream, but we just have to suck that up because, no pun intended, but the actual water and conserving the water is much more important than our bottom line on the water. Because pretty soon, as all of your studies indicate, over the next 10 years, I'm sure we're going to add another 100,000 people to our system. And we do have to figure out where that water is going to come from. Chuck, you and I spoke on the phone yesterday about this, and I wanted to make sure that in addition to the list that Mr. Baird presented to us, and I think he had, 4 or 5 options the last time we had this discussion?
In August, I believe we presented 5 or 6 different options.
Okay,
yes.
5 or 6 options. But I want to bring up 2 points. Number one is the state legislature, as you and I discussed, is strongly wrestling with the idea that within the next 6 years, they're not going to allow any municipality or water authority to continue to dump treated water into a body such as the Bay, if they pass that law this year, or if they pass it next year. You're not shaking your head, but I think...
sorry, was there a question in there?
Well, I think that's a correct statement in terms of the legislation that's pending right now.
Yes, I believe that is the gist of the legislation.
Okay. That concerns me greatly because just like so many other things, Mr. Citro, as you know, they take that control away from us. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing on this particular item depends on, which side of the equation you're on, but that might become a reality. If that becomes a reality, then we do have to figure out a plan. What are we going to do with the wastewater that your cohorts are treating a few miles from here and putting in the Bay? If the legislature says you can't put it in the Bay anymore, then we have to figure out what to do with it. Either we need to put it on yards, put it out on people's yards instead of potable water, which I do think is one of the options that we looked at. Or possibly another one that you and I talked about briefly yesterday, which is actually instead of injecting it up there near the dam, to actually put it into the water above the dam. I'm not saying I know anything about that science, but I do think that that might be another possible option. The injection part has always concerned me greatly because once you start injecting things into the aquifer, I think it creates a lot more unknowns. If you treat that water tremendously like we currently do, and we would probably even add some additional treatments, and then put it into another surface water like the canals and or above the dam, then at least if something goes wrong, you can perhaps turn off that spigot temporarily until you can figure out how to fix it. But if you've injected that into the ground, then it's a lot harder to fix. So I know these discussions aren't completely in front of us today, but I just wanted to throw out that additional option as something that I hope we continue to explore.
Thank you, sir. Then Councilman Miranda. And
I was waiting for any kind
I'm sorry.
Any kind of nod or perhaps yes or anything.
A smile
from Chuck.
I didn't really come prepared to discuss all the options in detail.
Correct.
But I am looking forward to the discussion, and we are fortunate to have a lot of different options to discuss.
Okay, and that might be one additional option that we might look at.
I think it could be, yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman. First of all, we have one of the few only advanced water treatment facilities at Howard Kern. Am I correct?
Yes.
As far as going into the bay, since 1950, when all the destruction of the bay came about through pollution, through individuals and companies and everybody else throwing all the into the water, through our advanced water treatment plant at Howard Kern, we are now have more. It is much more stable, the environment of the water, than it was in 1950, equal to or greater than the amount of restoration. Am I correct?
Yes.
So then you have other cities that have secondary treatment that are putting it in. We're not. Am I correct?
Yes.
We do have some leaks at times, and that's unexpected. However, through the pipes program that we passed as council, 2.8 or 2.9 billion, whenever we do that, we should correct that 100%. Am I correct?
Yes.
Secondary, let's talk about water. City of Tampa is the only other member of Tampa Bay Water that can supply water to some large amount. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I have no script about this, and I haven't talked to Chuck Weber about any of this. However, when you look at the city of Tampa, we could save millions and millions of dollars to other cities and entities in Tampa Bay Water, but somehow we don't get enough votes to supply more than 82 million gallons daily average. Am I correct?
There was a study that indicated that, yes.
So then we have to this paradox of two things meeting and not squaring off, that if, and you know, the Constitution of the United States of America was somehow changed many times, 14 or 15 times or 12 times or 20 times, but it was amended. Now, I'm not asking you to correct me because I know it's been amended, but I'm not telling you to say, yeah, Miranda, you're right, because I may be wrong. So what I'm trying to tell you is that here we sit in a growing area. The highest population explosion is in Hillsborough County between Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough County. Am I correct? Maybe.
Hillsborough and Pasco are growing very quickly.
Pasco's going to grow. Pinellas is on the flat side. They're doing well, but they've had their growth. We haven't reached ours yet. Nothing wrong with that. So when you look at those things and you say, what are we doing? I tell you what we're doing. And I'm going to say something. I don't care who's in the audience. I don't care how many that criticize me. I'm going to say it. If that agreement is not changed in the next 50 years or so, the city of Tampa will not have a water department because of the population coming in, and you can't meet that population growth. Even though you can provide the water, you're not allowed by state regulations and those other entities that want to say, no, this is mine, it's my baby, I want to hold it. Well, you don't produce the damn thing, we do. So what I'm trying to tell you is, just because of that, the city of Tampa has to buy water today. And when we had, let me go back to conservation for a minute, I'll come back here. The city of Tampa was one of the first in the state to have control of the bring down your water amount that you're using every day. We had restrictions. We were one of the first that started with strict restrictions. We didn't want to, we got criticized by a lot, but we gave out a lot of watering tickets, and we still have that enforced to some degree. Am I correct?
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're playing against ourselves and our own mind by saying that everything is rosy and everything is beautiful because somebody's telling me something. That's not correct. I'll tell you that right now. If the city of Tampa does not have a plan going forward with the state to allow us, and we're the only one that can save this situation, and we're the only one that's not allowed to save the situation because our plant can only do 82 million gallons a day on average by state law. That's what our permit says. Am I correct?
The plant is capable of treating more.
More, right, but for a very limited time.
Our water use permit limits us to 82.
Right, but the city of Tampa cannot produce 120 million gallons average for a very short period of time before something else happened, a catastrophe, because it's not built for that. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, sir.
It can do 120 million on emergency. Somebody's water system goes out in another area in this 3-county area, we can produce more water if needed. Am I correct?
Yes.
So we're the only ones that can solve the problem, but yet we're not allowed to solve the problem. And my voice ain't being raised because I'm angry. It's being raised because I'm energetic to solve a problem. And I know that I'm correct. But you like that one. So what I'm trying to say is, what the hell is wrong with all of us here? That you talk, we sound like we're in Washington, D.C. And this is not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about solving a problem. The same problem they have, we have. And I don't want to compare myself with somebody else. So we're here to solve a problem, and yet we're sticking not my neck, not your neck, not the mayor's neck, but somebody wants to cut it off through the system that we have in force that you can't do a damn thing about it. That's what we're in. Whether I like it or don't like it, that's what it's all about. So instead of solving the problem that the city of Tampa can, we're going to be buying water, paying more, and having these beautiful 2.9 billion gallons operated underground to clean the water and do what with it? I really believe, and I said it before, you can have 2 water plants because catastrophe could happen at any time to that plant, to their plant. The Howard Curran plant, with a couple of 2 or 3 changes in it, they're costly. Anytime you talk about water, cleaning water is very costly. The do-gooders say that, you know what, I don't want that water. But let me tell you about the river. There's manure in the river from human waste and from cows. There's urine in the water from urine waste in the cows. There's all kind of oil. There's all kind of fuel that's been dumped somewhere. There's all kind of contaminants. There's all kind of everything that chemicals, everything that goes in that. You have to clean it up. Your department's got to clean it up. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. We've been doing that for decades.
Right. And the water quality you have is at what grade? One of the top.
Yes, sir.
So there's where we're at. And nobody wants to solve the problem. I don't really give a damn about somebody else. I give a damn about the city of Tampa helping somebody else. But yet we're not allowed to do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, this larger discussion is for another day, but just so the public knows, there is no shortage of water. There is a regional pact that's 21 years old called Tampa Bay Water that 6 governments in the region collaborate with, and they have a 30-year plan for water and a 10-year supply that they update every year. This particular plan has never been chosen as one of the supplies of the region because it wasn't the safest, cheapest alternative, but there are lots of water sources. Most of them happen to be in Hillsborough County, but there are lots of water sources. 21 years ago, St. Pete and the other partners put their water supply into the regional collaborative, the idea being that we would work regionally. And the only, so if Tampa wants water, there is a 30-year plan. We can just tap into it like we are right now. There are 2 questions. One, should we be a part of the regional collaborative? And there was, I think, a philosophy over the last 8 years that we should not be part of the regional collaborative, which I think is a mistake for many reasons. But the second thing is, what do we do with this water? And if the state forces us to do something with it, there are lots of things we can do. We can put it into purple pipes. We can process it and use it in some way, but I don't think there's any projection that says in the next 10 or 20 years that we're going to need 60 million gallons a day more of water. So, and then my understanding is when you convert that to potable water, it's going to be 30 million gallons a day plus or minus. And we don't need 30 million gallons a day in the next 20 or 30 years either. And so in whatever form we're going to be reusing this, if it's not purple pipes, we're going to have to sell it to somebody in some way. And so there are very complicated issues that we have to go through to try to figure out how best to maintain a regional pact that's made our region cohesive and economically vibrant, while also satisfying the needs of Tampa customers, and then following whatever we need to do with this reused water.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember.
And I appreciate everyone's comments and everyone's conversation on this. And city of Tampa that I know of has never said they didn't want to be in Tampa Bay water. On the record or off the record. Mayor Oreo didn't tell me that. Mayor Buckhorn hasn't told me that. And Mayor Castor never told me that. So that's the only 3 mayors that have been there since it started. None of them have ever given me any indication at all that Tampa did not want to be a regional cooperation in the city with Tampa Bay Water or with anyone else. What I see and what my senses tell me is that the city of Tampa is the only one that can solve the problem regional-wise. Save millions of dollars of being additional plants being built, more desal and more other thing, which is much more expensive than anything I'm talking about. And anybody wants to take me to it, I don't gamble and I'll bet on it. That's how much I know, or how little I know. Let me put it that way. It'd be a fool to bet money if you don't know what's going on. And I'm willing to take on any wager from anybody on that, and any amount. City of Tampa can produce water cheaper than desal. Cheaper and better for the unit of this whole area. However, some, quote unquote, I don't want to drink that water. Well, let me tell you something. Have you been to Atlanta? Have you been to Washington, D.C.? Have you been to California? Have you been to Australia? Have you been to New Zealand? Have you been to Israel? You drank that water. And none of you are dead. So what's it do? Not one living microbe comes out of that water. Not one living microbe comes out of water that comes from reclaimed water. I didn't say that. A fellow in California who started it said that. And I'm going to bring them back if I can to give a symposium on water. I brought them back once already. First time, I paid for the air pocket myself, airfare. Somebody paid for the hotel and somebody paid for the food. And I'm willing to do it again. And let's talk about it the right way. I'm not afraid of scientists. I'm not afraid of environmentalists. It's all good for the well-being of all of us. I welcome the discussion with all of them about what's coming. If this country does not go into any type, and I'm not talking about Tampa, I'm not talking about Florida, the whole country doesn't see what's coming, you haven't seen disaster until you don't have any water. And yes, there's 30-year plans, yet this council voted not to pass the city of Tampa's 20-year plan, or whatever it was, which is fine with me. I can only vote for one, and sometimes I'm not right. So what I'm saying is, I understand what's happening. I don't have the experience that you have, or the Brad Baird, or any other director. In fact, I'll say it, and I'll say it again. No elected officials to sit on the board of Tampa Bay Water. The ones that should sit there are the individuals, water directors from all the areas, because they understand it much more than we do. Just like I'm not an engineer, I understand what's going on to some degree, but much more than me is those individuals that work on it every day for their city or their county. Those are the ones that should be there, not I and not the other 8 members. That's just my personal feeling. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. No one else? Okay. Thank you, sir. We move onward to item number 97, and then we have Councilman Goods. Let's try to really keep these at 5 minutes because we got to get out of here by 12:30 with the consent agenda done. Go ahead, sir.
Chuck Weber, Water Department. Happy to answer any questions on this one.
And that's Councilman Dingfelder, sir, 97. Yeah, take your time.
97, I'd like to defer that for 90 days till May 21st.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, second by Councilman Niscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Okay, then lastly, Councilman Goods, your fence issue.
Vic Bede, Transportation Stormwater. I want to speak to the concern and the issue around Broadway bar and packaged liquors. And the concern was related to fencing that we have with screens on it. These are 6-foot fences that were placed in front of the business. This is standard practice. We use this type of fencing on all types of parade routes. And the reason for that fencing is really to establish a boundary to indicate the end of the parade route so that floats do not continue to throw beads and they get a very clear visual cue as to the end of the parade. Having said that, we do acknowledge and understand the concern about potential visibility to the business. Access to the business at no point was impacted because of this fencing. And we'll be more mindful in terms of communications with neighboring businesses. We'll work with our partners at Office of Special Events and Police Department and consider better options as the need may arise.
Sir?
That's not all my concerns. Basically, gentlemen, I don't know if the board received any calls, but I received several calls from my constituents in the district as it relates to the parade. Where the parade route starts and ends, where the disbanding starts, where the smaller fencing for the citizens on the eastern portion of 22nd Street towards Ybor and 7th Avenue, and then the high-rise fence, blacked out fence. And the concerns, gentlemen, were people thought that those businesses that are considered on the eastern side, that people feel that it is a blighted area, so let's cover that area up. That's one of the concerns I heard from the people. Where the parade ends. People don't really know where the parade ends because when you go to the 22nd Street stoplight in 7th Avenue, does the parade end at the corner there? Does the parade end a few steps down? And I guess people feel, well, the parade ends right there, that the people on the eastern portion don't benefit from the parade. The parade is just only for the western portion from 22nd Street to 7th Avenue back. So I don't know if this is a city-sponsored event, if it is a parade-sponsored event from a group, but the concerns are people felt that it was some kind of slight because they feel because of the eastern portion of 7th Avenue, is it the most beautiful place? And then we have the businesses that are there, the Broadway Bar, as you mentioned. So I just want to make sure that we can let the citizens know who's responsible for the fencing. Is it the city? Is it some other group? Is the city responsible for putting that fence up? And why was it done? And making sure that we make some corrections in the future so the people on the eastern portion of 7th Avenue, 22nd, don't feel that they're being discriminated against because they feel that's the blighted area. So if that parade needs to start in and there is no more patrons or parade visitors at the corners of 22nd Street, 7th Avenue, then maybe the parade needs to end right there with no folks right there. It just ends at 22nd Street west on back versus going a little further, giving them maybe half of a block on the corner right there. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to look at the concerns of the people because when you go the parade route, we have a diverse community with people, but when you get to 22nd Street and 7th Avenue, there are most African American people at that corner. I'm just going to put it out there, and those are the calls I got, feeling that they were discriminated against, that the parade stops right there at the corner right there, and now we've blacked out all the businesses going down 7th Avenue. So I think that's a concern that the task force or whoever monitors the parade needs to look at, maybe with the YCCD and some of those others, to make sure that the folks in those communities down there know that they're not being discriminated against. It's a practice that we're doing for safety or because we're disbanding the area, whatever, but it needs to be clear what's going on so that people don't feel that it's because that area doesn't look as well as the western portion of 7th Avenue and 22nd Street.
Understood, yeah. And we'll convey these concerns to all stakeholders involved. It is a team effort, and we'll certainly take it into consideration.
I'd like a report on that for the future parade that's coming up. I know that one doesn't go down if there's a change. It usually that turns at about 19th Street and goes back on the Palm. But in the future, next year, when we talk about a night parade going down that way, maybe we need to make sure that we look at a plan so people can understand and know ahead of time where it's going to stop at versus letting it stop right there at 22nd Street, 7th, and with that little curve right there, and then we just move down. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. No one else? No. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Let's roll through really fast, and we'll pull, there was one item that Councilman Dingfelder wanted to talk about. Let's just roll through the consent agenda real fast before getting to number 7, Councilman Citro, Public Safety. And for the record, which one was, 28 for Dingfelder. Okay, so we'll exclude that. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move items number 8 through 14. Second.
Wait a second. We have a motion by Councilman Citro, seconded by whom? Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Goods.
Sir, I'd like to move items number 15 through 26. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Escalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Carlson, for Councilman Dingfelder, excluding item number 28. Public Works.
I'd like to move items number 27 through 40 minus 28.
Yes, sir. Yes. We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Miranda, findings.
Move items 41 through 43.
Second. Motion by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman.
The big contract that we did, and I'm very happy about it.
Yes,
All
sir.
of us are.
Number 43, which is the Tampa Fire contract, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 43 is passed. Thank you.
That was tough.
A lot of happy individuals. Next, Councilman Carlson, Building, Zoning, and Preservation.
Like to move items number 44 through 61.
And there was a substitute for 54, I believe?
A substitute for 54.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Maniscalco, Transportation.
I'd like to move items 62 through 65.
Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now we go to item number 7.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask a favor of council.
Yes, sir.
With regard to the staff reports, there are some items that no staff was present that required resolutions being moved.
Okay, you want to go through those?
Yes, I believe.
Let's do them.
I believe items number 83.
83. Who's going to move 83 for me?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Who's going to move 84?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And lastly, number 98, your appointment, sir.
Who's gonna?
This guy has the same name as you.
There you go.
Unbelievable.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Goods or Councilman Dingfelder. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
And then, thank you, sir. And then for item number 92, just a note on it, I would encourage everyone to take a look at that report for the New Tampa Autism Park. By moving it to a different location, away from Stafford neighborhood in Tampa Palms, we have saved approximately 65-70% of the costs for that park. So it's a really great endeavor, and I thank Parks and Recs for working with me. We've been working on this for 3 years, ever since we got funding in 2017 for design. So hopefully, goodness willing, this will come through. And thank you for your vote on 98, everyone. I appreciate it.
Well, you're a nice guy.
I try. And Councilman Dingfelder, we pulled item 28 for you, sir.
No, I'm gonna let it ride. I'll make a motion at the end.
Okay. Is it okay if we, are you okay with us voting on it?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's,
Did you guys do all the rest?
except for that one, yes, sir.
Okay, move 28.
We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we move to item number 7.
Let's take 7 and we'll do that.
Yes, I'm fine. I'll move the ordinance for first reading. You don't need me to read it, right, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm moving ordinance, City of Tampa, Florida, relating to billboards, making revisions, City of Tampa Code of Ordinance, Chapter 27, zoning and land development, amending Section 27-289.15, billboard signs, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and specifically, I wanted to respond to the concern stated by not only the West Shore folks, but also the gentleman from Bon Air, that I've asked the 2 billboard companies to meet with both of those groups to possibly address that section of Dale Mabry that was of concern. I asked legal, they said that if we need to tweak this further, we can do that between first and second reading over the next 2 weeks. So there's still a possibility to tweak that and shrink the that district down. Yes, Kate?
I was being motioned to come up here. Kate Wells with the City Attorney's Office. In the event that the ordinance is revised between first and second reading, it's my understanding that the areas to which billboards could be relocated to would get smaller, not greater. So because that is not considered a substantial change to your ordinance, it would not be necessary to renotice it, which is why we can make those amendments between first and second reading.
Second.
Okay, any discussion further? We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, seconded by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chair, second reading and adoption will be held on March 19th, 2020 at 9:38.
Thank you. Let's roll through just setting these really fast, if I may. For 66, may I have a motion to set a date as specified here on March 5th?
March 5th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, sir. Who seconds? Second. We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And yes, sir. Go ahead.
Move 67 to be here on April 2nd, 2020 at 10:30 a.m.
Second. A motion by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, next we're going to do our public hearings. Before that, we're going to break very briefly. What time do y'all want to come back at?
1:45.
1:45.
Oh, we make it 2 o'clock.
2?
All right.
Everybody?
I'll second the 2
It's
again.
12. We need an hour and a half? Does everybody need? I mean,
I don't eat regular food.
Okay, is 2 o'clock amenable with the board, or?
Works for me.
Okay, we shall come back at 2 o'clock.